Luigi. Luigi. Hey, good morning. Good morning to all my friends. How are you, all my friends? I hope your night was good. I slept a lot, but then my kitties decided that it's a good idea to make a ton of noise in the middle of the fucking night. Fucking kitties. Anyway, no, they were great. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Neil. How are you? I woke up a little late, clearly, because my hair's like, I don't even know. I don't even care what's going on. I'm going to act like I don't even have hair. Good morning, Badger. Good morning, Lee. In a meeting. Okay, be quiet, everybody. Lee's in a meeting. We don't want to get her in trouble. I'm good. I'm good. I've been getting some better sleep. I'm listening to my body and it's saying, you need to sleep a lot. What's wrong with you? No. And I'm like, body, come on, don't be so mean. I'm just so tired. I need to go to the doctor. Oh my God, this coffee is everything. Easily distracted, I love you. How are you? Good morning. I'm so happy to see you guys this morning. I'm glad you're here. I don't have anything really important to tell you, but I'm just glad you're here. Oh, good morning, Oomph. How are you? Canada. Oh, Canada. I woke up a little late. I woke up at like 6:08, which, is late for me. Doesn't give me enough time to do everything I need to do, which is fine. Everybody got fed. Coffee got made. Carla, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Ah, ah, ah. 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 Anyway, I guess those are only noises I can only make like grunty noises. What is going on? What is this? What is this like pile? I don't. Oh, fuck it. It doesn't. Nothing matters. Most certainly not my hair. It really doesn't matter. I was like that yesterday. Couldn't stop with naps. Then trigeminal nerve. Oh no. You're good now? Okay. Yeah. Oh God. I know. I hate the point where I lay down. Whoa, would my camera freeze? Where's my camera? Oh, my camera came unplugged. Hold on just a second. Hold on just a second. Stupid. Oops, not that. Okay, maybe that. Ah, there I am. Okay. Now I'm back. I'm not frozen. Okay. I was never really frozen. It was just an illusion. What? What is this? What is this? What is this? What? This little... What? What is that doing? What the fuck is that? Okay. Just pretend I don't have hair. Anyway, it looks fine. I guess to me, I'm just like seeing this massive clump right here. Looks like... I look like Wilma Flintstone to me. You know what I mean? Like she has that hair that like the front part is like big and poofy and then whatever. I'm sorry. I'm so silly. I'm so ridiculous. Okay. Anyway, but seriously, I'll stop looking at the poofy part of my hair in the monitor. Okay. Anyway, here we come on the run. That's right. Here we come. I'm in the banana splits. Na 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 na. That was one of my favorite shows when I was a kid. But guys never notice stuff. It's all right, Neil. It's okay. I don't need to be. It's kind of shallow to be worried about what my freaking hair looks like. It doesn't really matter. Believe me, I know that. I just keep seeing, oh, hey, there I am. I just keep seeing all this stuff. Oh, impacts. Let's see what's coming up this morning. Oh, my goodness. Committee of Homeland Security. Impacts of Emergency Authority. Wait. Emergency Authority cybersecurity regulations on the transportation sector. Well, sounds interesting. I don't really know. Snorkel. Snorkel. Oh, my God. Hold on. You know what I should do? I should blow my nose in the morning. But I don't have any tissue, so. Banana splits, then Gilligan Island after school. I loved banana splits. Do. I thought they were great. Actually, they might have been one of my comic inspirations. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the banana splits were. I thought they were great. Their car was great. They had a great car. Remember that? It was like one of those dune buggy kind of thing cars, but it was or not really a dune buggy. I wanted one of those when I was a kid. I thought, I want to drive one of those. Those look really, really, really cool. Really, really, really cool. I am going to go blow my nose. Anyway. Ugh. Jesus Christ. Some people put the weirdest thumbnails on their fucking videos. Okay. Oversight of the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Oh, oversight of FEMA. What the hell was that noise? Only recall credits, not show. You don't remember the show? Okay, hold on. Oh, man. I guess that was a little, like, I think you're younger. You are younger than me. I know that. But I think it was a little after, well, I don't know. Yeah, it was after your time. It was after your time. It was when I was a baby. I was just a baby. Dark Shadows? I fucking love that, Max. Are you kidding me? I fucking love Dark Shadows. I thought, what's his name? The guy who was the star? I was so in love with him. Oh, you only recall the credits, so. I loved Dark Shadows. I loved Barnaby. I wanted to marry him. I would be a vampire. I don't care. Hi, Val. Hi, Gal. Val and Gal. I loved Dark Shadows. Wait, hold on. Here we go. Hold on. Hold on. This is how we're gonna start our day. Because it's only gonna get worse from here, folks. Okay, so we might as well start with something absolutely fucking ridiculous. 100% ridiculous. All right, let me do this. I'll probably get in trouble for this, but whatever. La 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 la. I love these guys. I just love them. Beretta the Bird was great. Yep.
Two banana, three banana, four bananas make a bunch and so do many more.
Oh, this is rocking, man. This is like serious. This is serious rock and roll.
Banana split show. Making up a mess of fun. Making up a mess of fun. Lots of fun.
Who was that elephant that played their keyboards? Wow, it's a long theme. I think this is in Santa Cruz, isn't it?
Bananas playing in the bright warm sun. Flipping like a pancake, popping like a cork. Flingo, bingo, cougar and storm. Tra-la-la, la-la-la-la. Tra-la-la, la-la-la-la. Tra-la-la, la-la-la-la. Tra-la-la, la-la-la-la. Tra-la-la.
This is a great show. Look at this. They have to drive these cars around. I love it. Okay, they're going to do it over and over again. Okay, I get it. Anyway, yes, welcome to the show. I had a crush on Angelique. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Got to put that on the grandson playlist, please. Half the show was the theme song. I agree, Carla. But it was a very good show. Okay, maybe it wasn't a very good show, but it was it was rocking. It was rock and roll, man. It was like fucking rock and roll. And look how popular they were. No, I'm just kidding. They got mobbed everywhere they went. Okay. Anyway, there is actual serious stuff happening this morning. Believe it or not. And I have a ton. Oh my God. I have so many. Oh my God. I sometimes when I pull up the live videos on my on my YouTube, I'm just like, oh my God. Why is this happening? Why is this even a thing? Okay, anyway, here we go. Now there's this. Okay, that's at 11, so that's not this morning. Supreme Court. Oh, that's a different Supreme Court. That's Pennsylvania's Supreme Court. Let's see. No. Impacts of emergency authority, cybersecurity regulations on what? On the transportation sector. That one is at 7. We could start with that. Hold on, let me see. What else do we have this morning for my friends? Give us a break. We had 4 channels. I know, right? And an ability to appreciate simple times. No, actually, I think kids now are the same. I really do. They just have different stimuli, right? I mean, come on. Kids can't be that different. They just have to have different stimuli. Beep, beep. Beer. Senate meeting. Oh, that's Georgia. Energy, utilities, and telecommunications. No, boring. No, boring. Oh, no. You know what I've been watching more and more is Bloomberg, which I really realize I don't like that, but I'm interested to hear what they say, because those are the guys who are like rich, but not super rich necessarily. So, and them talking about what's coming is very interesting to me. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? G20's happening, but they're not showing anything that's like really cool for the G20. You know what I mean? Like I was hoping that they would be more organized. The G20 is just so disorganized. Let's see. Okay, can I tell you too? Can I? Yeah, they're just the same. They're just kids. Can I also complain for a minute? Okay, do you remember when we first heard about the International Space Station and the people that were stuck up there because of the Boeing Space Link something or other? Space fart. Do you remember that? Do you remember that? When those 2 astronauts are like, well, we can't bring them home till February. They were supposed to just go up and, fart in space, but now they have to stay there. Okay, well now the woman astronaut is sick. Okay, listen, I knew this was a problem, and Boeing should just go out of business, okay? Because they built a shitty rocket, so the people who went up there couldn't get back home, and now she's sick. Now she's sick. I'm telling you right now, I think, well, I don't know, because no one's going to do anything about it. I can't. I'm so frustrated. I'm so frustrated that corporations and people with warped views of humanity are in charge. That makes me angry. And we're all going to be that astronaut left out in the middle of nowhere, sick. Ugh, something has to happen between now and January 20th. I mean, just something has to. Something wild. Something wild already did happen. Why couldn't something else wild happen? And I mean like drastic reconciliation with the truth. But I feel like it's a nightmare and we can't wake up from it. Really makes me mad. Really makes me mad. And the people who are like joking about this, like, oh, you know, Trump won. Oh, I knew he was going to win because you guys are just so weird, you know, like, you're responsible for people dying. Like, more so than others. And if you have daughters, you just put their lives in danger. What are you thinking? How is that ever a choice? How did so many people just become completely ignorant of what this government intends or has already done? Really? So, anyway, I don't know. I'm really angry about that. I'm really angry. I'm angry about people who are, you know, thinking this was some kind of gotcha. You know, oh, we own the libs. Or you Dems are so stupid. You're so full of yourselves. No, we're not, actually. We vote in the interest of everyone, not just ourselves, which is clearly what you're doing. So, but even then, you're not doing it because the person I heard say this has a daughter. I know that. And they voted against their daughter's interests. Or they didn't vote, or whatever they did or didn't do. So, I'm going to tell you. See, significant calorie deficit. So, do they have enough food? I don't know, Neil. I don't know. Yikes. We have a billionaire problem in this country or in this world. Okay, sorry. That was a little diversion, but I'm really upset about that. And every time I hear a dude talk about, you know, oh, you guys were so sure you were going to win and then you just got owned or something like that, right? That makes me so angry because people are dying. And I'm just like, you know, and yes, I understand people die under a democratic regime too. I get it. But not as many. Where will they get food? Well, I mean, don't they have like food? Like it's a space station, right? So like, how do they get food? Wait a minute. Do they grow their own food? Do they have enough food for like when, how, what? I need to understand this a little bit more, but not right this second. Oh man. Here we go. Okay. We got to listen to this. It's 10 minutes. I don't want to talk about it, but we're going to listen to it. Shit. This is WITF, which I don't know what that is. Is that a public radio station? Not really sure. Okay, so this is about the Pennsylvania race. Oh, I have some videos for us to watch too. Hold on. All right. This is about Pennsylvania. I haven't listened to this yet, but it's from this morning.
Not to tally disputed ballots in the U.S. Senate recount. High Court has ordered counties not to tally disputed ballots in the U.S. Senate recount. And a multi-million-dollar settlement has been reached over a data breach that resulted in nude photos of cancer patients ending up on the dark web.
Patrick Howard of law firms
To a $65 million concluding that not enough ballots remain to be counted and written date on the return on election between Democrats. I'm your host, Tim Lambert, as we take this daily trip around the region's top stories together.
MREs probably, yeah.
The state Supreme Court is weighing in on an issue amid ongoing vote counting in the U.S. Senate election between Democratic incumbent Bob Casey and Republican David McCormick. It's ordered counties not to count mail-in ballots that lack a correct handwritten date on the return envelope. The ruling is a win for McCormick and a loss for Casey as the campaigns prepare for a statewide recount. The Associated Press called the race for McCormick, concluding that not enough ballots remain to be counted in areas the Democrat was winning for him to take the lead. As of yesterday, McCormick led by about 17,000 votes out of almost 7 million ballots counted. A judge in Lackawanna County has given final approval to a $65 million class action settlement against Lehigh.
All right. Well, that's clear. So the Pennsylvania Supreme Court said they should stop counting the ballots in Pennsylvania because there's a very tight race between Casey and whatever the Republican guy is. Can't remember what they said his name was, but what he said at the beginning is that the state Supreme Court has stopped the counting of ballots that were deemed to be dated or missing a date or some kind of error on the ballot itself. And they didn't have the dates written on them or something like that. Yeah, McCormick, like the spices. And so the Pennsylvania Supreme Court said, don't count them. And right now, there's a very tight race between the Democrat Bob Casey, senator, right, and the Republican challenger, shithead, let's call him Mr. Shithead. Okay, we'll call him Mr. McCormick. Mr. McCormick Shithead. Sure, whatever. And so they're not going to count the ballots, or they said they're not going to. So I'm sure that Mark Elias is on it. Actually, I have a great page to show you. Let me show you that. Here we go. Here's the court cases right here. Whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the police. Ooh. Okay, let me put this here. I want you to see some fire. You know what I mean? All right, we'll put it there. Okay. Anyway, so these are the court cases that Democracy Docket, and look at this. It's a lot of them are Pennsylvania, York County provisional ballot signature and envelope error challenge. That might be the one we just talked about. This one was filed yesterday. Pennsylvania, Delaware County provisional ballot signature and yesterday. They're doing it county by county. They're challenging all of this in Pennsylvania. These are all filed November 18th. So Democracy Docket, the Democratic Party, who has hired Mark Elias as their lawyer, are challenging all of these. So I expect to hear more about that, given that they just had that ruling. I'm sure it'll be appealed. Thank you, Max. On Pennsylvania absentee mail ballots, there's an inner envelope that must be dated and signed. That is the dumbest fucking thing. I'm sorry. They try to trick you with these ballot envelopes. I know that I guess it's some level of security, I guess, but it feels like a gotcha. It feels like I have to look at every inch of that envelope to make sure that I've done what I'm supposed to do. So it is stupid. I agree with that. I agree wholeheartedly. Let's see what we have a lot. I'm telling you, I know I'm being a little bit lazy and a little bit like, well, here we go. Let me just sit around and do nothing. But let me, I got a ton of shit. Strap in, kids. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. Okay, good. Oh, that's what I wanted. All right, so that's there. And let me just look at my other. Doodly-doo, 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 doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Pow! Oh, wait. Sorry, I should tee up this stuff the night before. Apologies. I'll try to get better about that. Oh, what? Mike's Little Johnson? Somebody called him Trump's Little Johnson. I thought that was a better name. I admit that I failed in that. I should have come up with Trump's Little Johnson. But this is a Mike Johnson press conference, supposedly. I don't know. Mike Johnson. Mackie Johnson. Paulina! SB! Boop, boop. They should... right. Just fucking cure the ballots, okay? You don't fucking disregard someone's vote because of a clerical error. I'm sorry. Kids today don't even do cursive. Do they have consistent signatures? I don't have a consistent signature. My signature has changed from when I registered to vote. Paulina. So sweet. What a great group of friends we have. We're so lucky. Yes, we are. We're so lucky. Get in the car. No. Good morning, good morning, good morning to you. All right, let me see. I need something else to do while we're waiting for them to figure their shit out. Butterflies, where the hell have you been? Are you okay? Are you okay, butterflies? Where have you been? Where you been, girl? I guess you've been wherever you've been. It's not like you've not been missing or anything like that. Pretty much. Anyway, butterflies. She is Central America. We're nice until trivia night arrives. Well, trivia demands a whole nother persona. She is Central America. She is in Central America. Who's in Central America? Wait, am I... Who? Kids don't even first. Oh, she's... Wait. First time I heard Call Me Freddie Flintstones, I Can Make Your Bed Rock. I thought, how did I not think of that one? I never heard that line. That's a pretty good one. I can make your bed rock. That's goofy. That's goofy. Butterflies is in Central America. You are? Oh my God, congratulations. I hope you're having fun. My daughter was on the phone yesterday. My signal was bad. Oh, butterflies, I hope you're good. And I hope she's good. Oh, fun. Well, we miss you. Be safe. Travel safe. And have a really wonderful time. We'll be here when you get back. I'm glad you're here, though. I want to come home. Oh, bunny. I want you to come home. It's so true. I want you to come home. Oh, my God. My coffee is so good this morning. Can I just tell you that? She's not traveling. She's an expat. Oh, why did I not know that? I did not know that, butterflies. I'm so sorry. Why did I not know that? Tintin has thoughts? Oh, good. I did not know that. Gosh, butterflies, I apologize if I missed that. I'm so sorry. Hi, Carrie. Tintin has a thought. He is the biggest dick. Yeah, Tintin. He has a thought. He is the biggest dick. Yeah. Oops. Okay, I don't care about your fucking chat. Howdy, I'm here sort of kind of. Hi, Paul J. Are you doing okay, bub? Are you doing okay, love? I hope you are. What did I do with that little... Oh, there it is. Okay, here we go. This is what we wanted to look at. Tintin, what do you have to say? Okay, the reason I called this is Brian Glenn. Brian Glenn was he was a host on RSBN, which is Right Side Broadcasting Network, which was literally a network that was created by Joe Seals for President Trump, for him. A network created for him. No. And so Brian Glenn, who used to work for RSBN, has this haircut that makes him look like Tintin. And he's also got little beady eyes. And right now, he's fucking Marjorie Taylor Greene. He left RSBN, and now he's at Real America's Voice with Steve Bannon. Oh, you remembered that from the Shirt People days. That's so cute. I don't tell people the trolls have a good time with it. I don't mind you all know. Oh, I'm so sorry, butterflies. We won't make a big deal about it. Well, I had no idea. So there you go. And frankly, good luck for them they should go down and try and find you. Yeah, that would be a great idea. I'm sure that would go over really well. All right, here we go. Real America's Voice. I'm just sick and tired of Republicans standing in the way of us being successful. On the possible release of the Gaetz report. Fuck yeah. Oh, are you mad? Are you mad? Are you mad, Tintin? Watch it. He's got Tintin hair. I'm telling you right now. You're never going to not see it.
And this is a great example of like the Kavanaugh situation, of and what they did with President Trump as well on the campaign trail. Mm-hmm. I'm just sick and tired of Republicans standing in the way of us being successful. We have an opportunity to absolutely do great things in this country and get rid of all the corruption. Doge is a great organization, department that's going to get rid of the deep state you guys were talking about in the previous subject. This is our chance to root out the deep state, the corruption, and we're standing in the way of that because we're so concerned about Matt Gaetz and these files when we have $18.3 million have been given out secretly to victims of sexual harassment and sexual assault. I think it's ridiculous, and let's just move on past all this stuff and let's save this country. I'm sick and tired of these people behind me standing in the way of the American people. This is what we want. This is what President Trump wants. Let's do it.
Oh, he's a good German. Yeah, he is a good German. Yeah, he is a very good German. Yeah. Did anyone see the data scientist that says there needs to be a recount? He sent duty to warn letters to Kamala lawyers. I just don't know his name. I don't know. Gal might know. I don't know. I haven't heard that, but I haven't paid too much attention. Oh, hold on. We've got a Mike's Little Johnson sighting. Maybe. Yeah, I didn't see that, but I'll look for that. Secretly giving out, like in out of court settlements. Yeah, the ethics committee I think has made like settlements with something. Spoon something. Oh, it was this morning. Oh, okay. I did not see that, butterflies. I'm going to take a look at that. Hi, Val. Did I see you come in? I think I did. Good morning, love. We're just waiting for Mike's Little Johnson. And the other thing is, let's see. Well, while we're doing that, I'm going to check my other bookmarks because we do have a lot. I have a lot. Yeah, I have a lot. Oops. Oh, there we go. Wake and bake. All right. So let's see. I want to read that. Oh, wait. Did I already put that up? Yeah, I did. Oh, I already did. Okay. What's this? I want to do that. I already have that one. Oh, I know. Here we go. Do. Mike, stop pooping and get out there. Come on. It was this morning. It gave me some hope. Here's the thing. I think after having been through what we've been through for the 2020 election, and I know that saga of the recounts and the this and the votes and the this and the that, I don't think there's a problem with taking a moment to do the recounts if they haven't been done. I'm not even up on who has been doing recounts and who hasn't. But I'm wondering if, if it makes sense to me that you would go through kind of normal reconciliation counts just to make sure that's not a problem. That wasn't what happened last time. They weren't just asking for recounts. They were asking for forensic audits and court cases to deny voters that had voted already, like all kinds of shenanigans. And they came up and the cases that the Trump people came up with.
Good morning. The Committee on Homeland Security, Subcommittee on Transportation and Maritime Security will come to order. Without objection, the chair may declare the subcommittee in recess.
I don't know if this is going to be interesting or not, but we'll see. This is
today's hearing will examine the
Homeland
Transportation Security Administration's use of security directives
and
proposed rulemaking in transportation sector cybersecurity regulations. I now recognize myself for an opening statement.
That's one of the things I want to read that to you.
Today, this subcommittee is examining how the Transportation Security Administration utilizes security directives and public rules to manage cybersecurity risks within the transportation sector. In today's interconnected world, cybersecurity is more than just an IT issue. It is a critical component of our national security. Cyber threats have become pervasive, and their potential impact on critical infrastructure has profound implications for the safety and stability of our society.
It shouldn't be that
and the resilience of our
to
economy.
go through the normal recount.
Nowhere is this more evident than our transportation systems, which serve as the backbone of the American economy. These systems connect our communities, support commerce, and facilitate the movement of goods and services across the country and around the world.
She really ruined people.
Our transportation networks, spanning aviation, rail, public transit, highways, pipelines, and maritime ports, are increasingly reliant on complex digital systems for operations and coordination. This reliance makes them especially vulnerable to cyber attacks by criminal groups and nation-state actors. Moreover, as emerging technologies like autonomous vehicles, connected infrastructure, and artificial intelligence become more integrated into our transportation systems, the cybersecurity and landscape grows more complex. These advances, while offering new efficiencies and capabilities, also create additional access points that cyber criminals and nation-state adversaries could exploit. A cyber attack on any of these systems could disrupt travel, halt commerce, threaten public safety, and create cascading effects across our economy and national security landscape. Whether through ransomware attacks, data breaches, or other malicious cyber activities, such threats have the potential to cause extensive harm, demonstrating the need for targeted cybersecurity regulations within the transportation sector. Safeguarding our transportation infrastructure is not only about securing physical assets, it's also about protecting the digital networks that power and control them, ensuring resilience in the face of evolving threats. The Transportation Security Administration, TSA, established to protect our nation's transportation systems, has an essential and increasingly complex role in defending these critical networks against cyber threats. With its mandates to secure the nation's vast transportation infrastructure, covering everything from aviation and rail to maritime and public transit, TSA is tasked not only with physical security, but also with developing and enforcing cybersecurity regulations across the industry. I have concerns about TSA's current approach. In recent years, TSA has issued numerous security directives aimed at addressing cyber risks. However, these directives often seem reactive, hastily implemented, and lacking the necessary consultation with stakeholders. Industry feedback indicates that these directives can be overly prescriptive rather than performance-based, limiting operators' abilities to tailor cybersecurity practices to their specific operational needs. A security directive that lacks clarity and flexibility may do more harm than good. Instead of fostering robust security measures, it can lead to confusion, inefficiency, and checkbox mentality, where compliance is valued over actual risk reduction. Moreover, the lack of collaboration with industry experts, the people who understand these systems best, raises concerns about whether these directives are even capable of addressing the most pressing vulnerabilities. On November 6, less than 2 weeks ago, TSA issued a notice of proposed rulemaking that aims to establish mandatory cyber risk management and reporting requirements for certain surface transportation owners and operators. The sheer complexity of these regulations, spanning over 300 pages, is overwhelming, especially considering smaller operators who are already operating with limited resources. These proposed rules raise an important question. Will they effectively fulfill their intended purpose by reducing cybersecurity risks within the transportation sector, or will they simply place an undue burden on operators? TSA should empower operators with the flexibility to develop and implement tailored cybersecurity strategies that best address their unique risks and operational needs. When I was the mayor of Miami-Dade County, I focused on reducing overhead and streamlining regulations to enable business innovation and improve government efficiency. I believe the same approach is essential as we work to effectively protect our nation's transportation systems from cybersecurity risks. By balancing regulatory standards with operational adaptability, we can promote robust cybersecurity practices that both protect critical infrastructure and foster innovation and efficiency within the industry. Thank you to our witnesses from both panels for appearing before the subcommittee. I look forward to your testimony. I now recognize the ranking member, the gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Thanadar, for his opening statements.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Chairman Jimenez, for holding today's hearing, and thank you to our witnesses for joining us. The May 2021 ransomware attack against Colonial Pipeline served as a major turning point in TSA's approach to securing transportation systems from cyber attacks. Prior to the attack, TSA's efforts to ensure the cybersecurity of transportation systems relied largely upon voluntary cooperation and adoption of recommended guidelines and best practices. The attack had far-reaching impacts as Colonial Pipeline shut down the transportation of fuel throughout the pipeline, which services much of southeastern United States. The public flocked to gas stations, leading to long lines and fuel shortages. In the aftermath of the attack, TSA assumed a more regulatory posture towards transportation cybersecurity, acting quickly to issue the first ever
in my dreams anyway,
security directives for pipeline systems and facilities. TSA followed that initial security directive with similar mandates for owners and operators of freight rail, passenger rail, public transit systems, as well as changes to security programs for airports and air carriers. TSA required owners and operators to adopt essential cybersecurity measures, such as designating a cybersecurity coordinator and reporting cyber incidents. TSA engaged extensively with industry stakeholders and quickly learned that its mandate were viewed as too prescriptive and inflexible. To provide regulated parties with enough flexibility to innovate and respond to evolving threats, TSA developed a novel approach in subsequent directives, focusing on
badge.
Desired performance
right now, 3 Danish
and
ships
security
are heading
outcomes,
to a Chinese ship they believe has
rather
been cutting
than
the underwater
specific
cables.
measures.
Fuck.
Over the past couple of years, TSA has continued to refine its approach through extensive engagement with stakeholders. Earlier this month, TSA issued a notice of proposed rulemaking to codify cybersecurity requirements for owners and operators of pipeline rails and over-the-road bus systems. TSA's proposal, which is currently open for comments, would require system owners and operators to establish and execute a comprehensive cyber risk management program, representing a significant step forward in the evolution of TSA's cybersecurity efforts. The maturation of those efforts is also reflected in recent adjustments to TSA's investment in cybersecurity. In fiscal year 2021, prior to the Colonial Pipeline attack, Congress funded TSA cybersecurity activities at $86 million with 86 dedicated positions. Now, in fiscal year 2024, that investment has increased to $137 million and 167 positions. For fiscal year 2025, the Biden-Harris administration has requested an additional increase of 8 million and 41 positions. I hope Congress will continue to support TSA's efforts to enhance the cybersecurity of the transportation sector. To those who may question the need for regulations of TSA's use of emergency security directives, I would note that if TSA continued to rely on voluntary compliance with recommended guidelines and another attack like the attack on Colonial Pipeline were to occur, the public would rail against both TSA and Congress for allowing a disproven approach to continue. Our adversaries are continuing to adopt and pursue offensive cyber capabilities. Now is the time for TSA and its partner to ensure our security defenses are fully fortified. I thank the chairman and our witnesses again, and I yield back.
Thank you, Ranking Member Thanedar. Other members of the committee are reminded that opening statements may be submitted for the record. Again, I am pleased to have a distinguished panel of witnesses before us today on this critical topic. I ask that our witnesses please rise and raise their right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give before the Committee on Homeland Security of the United States House of Representatives will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Let the record reflect that the witnesses have answered in the affirmative. Thank you, and please be seated. I would now like to formally introduce our witnesses. Mr. Steve Lawrence serves as the Deputy Executive Assistant Administrator for Security Operations at the Transportation Security Administration. Mr. Chad Gorman serves as the Deputy Executive Assistant Administrator for Operations Support at the Transportation Security Administration. Ms. Tina Wan Sherman serves as the Director for the Homeland Security and Justice Team at the U.S. Government Accountability Office. I thank each of our distinguished witnesses for being here today. I now recognize Mr. Lorenz for 5 minutes to summarize his opening statements.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me and inviting me for this hearing. My name is Steve Lorenz. As you mentioned, I'm the Deputy Executive Assistant Administrator for Security Operations. I have the privilege to work with and oversee 57,000 employees within security operations. Under our portfolio, we have domestic aviation operations, which oversees 433 airports across the country. We also have international operations, which we have assets throughout the world. We oversee surface operations, we oversee compliance operations, and we have an administrative function which oversees our administrative functions within security operations. We also have 2 senior liaison positions. One is with CISA, and the other is with the State Department. So it's a pleasure once again to be here. I look forward to the questions, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lorenz. I now recognize Mr. Gorman for 5 minutes to summarize his opening statements.
Good morning, Chairman Jimenez, Ranking Member Tanadar, and distinguished members of the subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. My name is Chad Gorman, and I am the Deputy Executive Assistant Administrator for Operations Support at TSA. In this role, I'm responsible for TSA's intelligence operations, regulatory policy, and stakeholder engagement, as well as other programs. I am joined today by Deputy Executive Assistant Administrator for Security Operations, Steve Lorenz. We appreciate the opportunity to discuss TSA's role in cybersecurity for our nation's transportation infrastructure. As the members of this committee know well, cyber attacks are an evolving and persistent threat. Cyber actors, specifically nation states like Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, have demonstrated their intent and ability to conduct malicious cyber activity targeting critical infrastructure by exploiting inherent vulnerabilities of both operational technology and IT systems. These nation-state threat actors have developed and demonstrated capabilities that pose significant cyber threats to the United States, our critical infrastructure, and the transportation sector. As the Director of National Intelligence has stated, our adversaries and strategic competitors have the intent and ability to pre-position cyber attack exploits that can be used against U.S. critical infrastructure, including transportation. In fact, we have observed highly sophisticated activity attributed to the People's Republic of China assessed as pre-positioning for disruptive attacks against U.S. critical infrastructure, including transportation sector, in the event of a major crisis or conflict with the United States. In response to these urgent threats, the TSA Administrator has utilized his emergency authorities found in both statute and regulation to issue security directives and emergency security program amendments immediately to protect transportation security. The Administrator may use these authorities upon finding that immediate action is necessary to protect transportation security. The TSA Administrator's ability to leverage these unique authorities and respond immediately during emergency situations has a significantly mitigated threats posed by a rapidly evolving cyber environment. These emergency authorities are a vital component of securing the nation's transportation system and allow the TSA Administrator to act to prevent harm to transportation in the advance of catastrophic consequences. Following the 2021 cyber incident at a major U.S. pipeline, the TSA Administrator leveraged his unique authorities to require transportation and infrastructure stakeholders, both surface and aviation, to implement a variety of cybersecurity protections. These measures include mandatory reporting of cybersecurity instances, designating a cybersecurity coordinator, requiring high-risk pipeline, freight railroad, passenger rail, and rail transit operators to develop cybersecurity implementation, response, and assessment plans, and reporting to TSA on their efforts on a recurring basis. The Administrator consulted industry partners regarding these measures and provided multiple threat briefings to CEOs and other industry representatives. These measures were developed with extensive collaboration with industry stakeholders, which allowed TSA to better understand the threat landscape and gather industry feedback. It was through this feedback loop that TSA learned that our initial approach to cybersecurity and surface modes was too prescriptive. Based on that feedback, TSA quickly transitioned our regulatory framework in 2022 to an outcome-focused, performance-based model, empowering our industry partners and allowing us to collectively address cybersecurity issues with measures tailored specifically to transportation environments. In parallel with these emergency measures, TSA continued to pursue more permanent changes through notice and comment rulemaking process, culminating in the issuance of a notice of proposed rulemaking earlier this month. This proposed rule is intended to codify the provisions of the recent security directives into a cybersecurity risk management
I'm nervous for him.
The proposed rule continues TSA's commitment to a performance-based requirements and builds on TSA's previously issued cybersecurity requirements aimed at establishing sustainable and comprehensive cyber risk
glasses match his
management
tie, though,
programs
and
for
I'm really
owners and
digging
operators
that.
with high risk profiles. TSA welcomes and encourages industry comment on this proposed rule. Continuing collaboration with industry partners, as well as with interagency partners such as the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the Department of Transportation, and the United States Coast Guard, is critical to securing the nation's transportation sector from cybersecurity threats.
Yes, he's just a
Industry
growth
engagement to
that
date
they
has led
found on
directly
Mr.
to better
Lawrence.
cybersecurity outcomes.
Sorry.
TSA is committed to continuing this engagement as these threats evolve. I want to thank the committee for its interest in cybersecurity of the transportation sector and for its continuing support of TSA and its unique authorities. I would like to also publicly thank the dedicated employees of TSA for the work they do every day to secure the nation's transportation systems. Thank you, Chairman Jimenez and Ranking Member Tanadar, for the opportunity to testify today. We look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gorman. I now recognize Ms.
Chairman Jimenez, Ranking Member Tanadar, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for inviting me to speak with you this morning. The threat landscape today is not quite what we had envisioned following the tragic events that occurred on September 11th. Current threat assessments cite the increasing prevalence and sophistication of cyber attacks on U.S. critical infrastructure, including on the transportation systems sector. Considered one of the lifeline sectors, transportation systems includes aviation and surface modes and moves billions of passengers along with millions of tons of goods every year. How this sector and others are fundamentally critical to our nation's economic stability and our everyday lives was brought into clear relief after the ransomware attack on Colonial Pipeline in 2021. More recently, Volt Typhoon's ability to compromise internet-connected devices in the transportation systems sector, as well as other critical infrastructure sectors, have raised significant concerns about the extent of the impact a cyber attack would have on the U.S. if carried out as part of a major conflict by a foreign adversary. The agency I represent, GAO, included the cybersecurity of critical infrastructure as part of its high-risk list over 20 years ago. And since that time, we have made numerous recommendations on cybersecurity in the transportation systems sector. For example, in 2019, 2 years before Colonial Pipeline, we reported it on weaknesses in TSA's management of its pipeline security efforts. Since that time, TSA has implemented all but one of our recommendations. The remaining recommendation is for TSA to update its 2010 Pipeline Security and Incident Recovery Protocol Plan to ensure the plan reflects laws, policies, and changes in pipeline security threats, such as cybersecurity. TSA officials told us they anticipate completion of the updated protocol plan by July of next year. TSA has used its various statutorily granted authorities to help secure all modes of the transportation system. This includes issuing security directives and emergency amendments in response to threats, events, or significant vulnerabilities, as well as recently initiating rulemaking to develop cybersecurity regulations for freight and passenger rail, pipelines, and more limitedly, over-the-road buses. Over the past 5 years, GAO has reviewed TSA security directives and emergency amendments in both aviation and surface transportation systems, and has made recommendations to clarify the process for renewing such directives and amendments and for obtaining and documenting stakeholder input. We also recently reported that TSA was unable to demonstrate that its security directives and emergency amendments align with leading practices for ransomware.
I seriously thought that was like a bottle of
vodka. As it moves through its rulemaking process for surface transportation, TSA should consider leading practices GAO has identified to improve the effectiveness of the process, including incorporating project management practices such as timely communication with external stakeholders about the rulemaking's process and progress, as well as other details. TSA should also be prepared to address some of the factors that can delay rulemaking, such as the complexity of the issues covered, shifts in administration and agency priorities, and the availability of resources to carry out a rulemaking. In closing, TSA must be positioned to effectively mitigate cybersecurity threats to ensure the safe movement of people and goods across our nation's transportation systems. GAO will continue to assist Congress in the oversight of TSA's efforts. I'd like to thank my GAO colleagues for their tremendous support in my preparation, and to the subcommittee for holding this hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Sherman. Members will be recognized by order of seniority for their 5 minutes of questioning, and I recognize myself for 5 minutes of questioning. Back to you, Ms. Sherman.
Doctor.
This 300-page document, what do you consider that? Is it more
I fucking hate men
check the
sometimes.
box
I'm sorry.
reporting requirements, or does it actually help industry in protecting itself from cyber attacks?
Well, we haven't done an in-depth analysis of the recent rulemaking. We know that there's a number of the requirements that are carried over from the existing security directives intended to help, of course, improve the cybersecurity of surface transportation. We also think that training that's potentially to be implemented that's included as part of the rulemaking is a positive step forward. Deterrence is always really difficult, of course, to measure, but we do see this as an important step forward by TSA.
Mr. Gorman, in terms of the rulemaking itself, I mean, as you were speaking, I'm looking at, let's focus, say, on rail, okay? Mm-hmm. So much of this country's commerce, energy, et cetera, runs on rails. How much of our infrastructure now is interconnected and dependent on electronic systems for switching, scheduling, et cetera, making sure that train is on this track at this time, et cetera, et cetera? How much of that is automated? How much of it is really susceptible to a cyber attack?
Specifically in the rail environment?
Yeah.
So I don't have an exact number for you, Chairman, but it is a large portion, particularly with the enactment of systems like mandatory positive train control and the interconnectedness thereof of the rail network. It is a federal requirement that those rail entities actually have that system in operation for safety purposes. And so that system, as well as things like switching and others, are what provided TSA the methodology by which we scoped in those rail entities that you see within the NPRM language, particularly those Class 1 rail entities that provide the bulk of the movement for the goods and services that you just referenced, sir, as well as a small amount of short line and regional railroads that, while of a smaller entity size, provide critical functions to the function of the overall system, or provide critical national security functions in the rail environment that we deemed as necessary for the protection of this rule.
How vulnerable are we to, say, a massive cyber attack on our rail system that basically paralyzes our rail system in the United States?
I think it varies across the system, sir, and these measures particularly are meant to raise the cyber resiliency of both rail, pipeline, and other entities that fall within the scope.
Robo-Jock, just answer the fucking question.
Specifically, industry standards as listed in things like existing NIST cybersecurity frameworks, as well as CISR's recently cybersecurity performance goals, to make sure that we are continuing to raise the bar for cybersecurity, particularly in these critical assets in transportation.
But no matter how much you raise the bar for cybersecurity, this is a constant game of one-upmanship, right? And eventually, if somebody really wants to penetrate it, eventually you have to account for the eventuality of us losing that, or somebody penetrating the system
I don't know what.
wreaking havoc on the United States.
So
in
stop
these rules,
working with Russia.
do you account for that, and do you mandate resiliency so that worst case scenario,
what does it matter?
You have to get off the grid?
Elected the guy
Will
that
we be able to
wants
still
to crush all the
transport
regulations and why
goods
we
and
have
services
East Palestine
by
to
the old
begin
method?
with?
Or are we so reliant on the new method that we've forgotten the old method and we'll be basically stuck in gridlock?
So given the dynamic nature of the cybersecurity freight that we face now and we anticipate facing in the future, I think there's three primary areas of this rule that are germane to your question. First, we learned based on the performance of the requirements that are existing in our current issued SDs of a performance-based model is the model to move into both now and into the future. These requirements that we have in the NPRM as posted, we believe provide both specificity in the outcomes that we are requiring, as well as flexibility for operators to adapt those to their specific operations, systems, and technologies to achieve those, as well as
He
our
speaks
overall
like a
goal is
training
to
manual.
prevent the disruption of critical services. And so,
I'm sorry, it
as
really
we
is hard to
are
follow
looking
what the
to
fuck
work
he's
with
talking
industry,
about.
we
bet he's
drive these
fun
requirements at those
parties.
critical assets that are determined within their operations. And thirdly, we are mandating that
He's actually a
these
furry.
owner-operators develop, maintain, and regularly exercise response plans, particularly for potential incidents that may
No kink
occur
shame.
on
No
or
kink shame here.
directly to their networks to provide redundancy and an ability to quickly respond and recover from those instances.
I don't even know what you just said.
Thank you. My time
Can you
is
put that in
up.
English?
Now I recognize the ranking member.
I have no idea if you're
Mr.
going to do
Thanedar for
something
5
about
minutes.
it, not going to do something about it. I have
Thank you,
no
Chairman.
fucking clue.
Mr. Lawrence and Mr. Gorman, in the aftermath of the Colonial Pipeline attack, Congress has consistently supported TSA's request for additional cybersecurity resources.
Butterflies, that
personnel.
means so much to
For
me.
fiscal
Thank
year
you so
2025, the
much. I really
Biden-Harris
appreciate
administration has
that.
requested an
Thank
additional
you.
8 million and 41 position for TSA's cybersecurity activities. How will that funding and those positions be used to enhance TSA's efforts? And what more does TSA need from Congress to further advance transportation cybersecurity?
Thank you for that question. First of all, I think it's really important to acknowledge the support that we have received and continue to receive, and we're very, very appreciative of that. Currently, in the aviation sector, we have oversight of 168 entities. In the surface sector, we have oversight of 155, and that's going to also grow moving into next year. The resource allocation, the 41 positions that you alluded to, is going to help tremendously as we continue to move forward. Currently, within our security operations structure for both aviation, we have 32 employees that are allocated to provide support for those 168 entities.
Do you think when these guys were little boys,
So as
they
you can
thought
tell,
they'd
the
grow up
scope
and
of the
look
work
and
is
speak
great,
and dress
especially
like
with
this?
some of the requirements and some of
You
the
think that?
pivoting that we have done based on industry feedback.
I just
And I just want to share one of those
just
things.
wonder if they had
So
different dreams.
industry has been instrumental in
Maybe
building
not.
this partnership and support with TSA. And they requested a couple things, which we worked with them on. One is to not submit
butterflies,
their
thanks so much.
information
That
to
means a
us.
ton.
So our inspection
It's on. I
timeline
put it
went
on
from
my
2 days to maybe
community
a week.
page.
So
I
that
think
drives
that's the easiest
additional
one to read.
resources. Also within the surface sector,
It's on.
we
Yeah,
have
it's on
about
my
60
community page on my
employees that are
YouTube page.
allocated to
I think I put
handle
it on
about
Twitter and stuff too,
155
but
entities.
it's just a
So the
photo.
workload is there, but we truly
I want to
appreciate
look like
the
George Bush
support
when I grow up.
that we continue to receive, and we look forward to also the
Yeah, if their
president's
parents
budget,
did, maybe,
which
yeah.
identifies these positions.
It's just funny because I don't think the people that
I
end
would
up
add one more
like
thing to
dressing
Mr.
like
Lorenz's
this and
response there as well, is that we also have
becoming
critical
corporate
responsibilities as a sector
automatons.
risk management agency.
I don't
to
think
not
that they
only,
really think that this is
regulate
how they're
within
going to
this
end up.
space,
I
but
mean,
then
this
also
guy's probably a
specifically to
little
provide
cool. He looks
support,
like he's a
to
young
the industry
dude, you know.
stakeholders on both
Got
in the
some
service and the aviation domains.
colorful glasses
These
that
resources
match
will
his
also
tie.
provide
That's
greater
pretty
ability
out
for us to
there.
engage on a regular and repeating basis with our industry stakeholders as they both implement these measures, as also face cybersecurity threats directly at their networks, as well as provide actionable intelligence directly to CIOs and CISOs within these company structures, so they can help best guide threat hunting teams and other preparatory measures above and beyond those measures that are required to additionally provide protections across transportation.
Thank you. Now, at times we have heard complaints about TSA's use of and reliance on security directives. However, statute requires the TSA administrator to immediately issue a security directive whenever the administrator determines that doing so is necessary to protect transportation security. The authority to issue security directives allow the TSA administrator to respond quickly and effectively to imminent threats. The regulatory process is simply not always fast enough to keep up with the evolving intelligence landscape.
Yeah, I don't
My
want.
question
I don't
is,
want those
how critical
witnesses
is
at my
TSA's
table.
security directive authority to
And
the
they don't
agency's
tip. I'll
ability
guarantee
to
it.
carry out its mission? Aside from TSA's recent cybersecurity efforts, how else has TSA used the security directives to protect transportation security? And if TSA has not moved immediately following the Colonial Pipeline attack to issue cybersecurity directives across several transportation modes, would our transportation sector have been left vulnerable?
First question, thank you for the question. We believe that the administrators' emergency authorities are vital to the security of the transportation sector. We have used these authorities both, as you mentioned here in this hearing, on several instances over the last several years,
Yes,
to ensure that we were rapidly responding to the
heartbreaking.
ever persistent and direct threats posed by our cybersecurity adversaries. With regards to other instances beyond cybersecurity, we would be happy to provide the members a listing of that, as that information is sensitive security information and we cannot discuss those details here in this hearing. We will be able to follow up with you directly after this hearing to provide you a summary of several examples of their usage.
Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you to the ranking member, and I recognize the gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Higgins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Lawrence, you are the Deputy Executive Assistant Administrator for Security Operations.
Boy, it's three-piece suit, dude.
For TSA.
Looks like a
under
fucking
the United States
pimp
Department of Homeland Security,
with
correct?
the burgundy shirt.
That is correct.
Mr. Gorman, you are the Deputy Executive Assistant Administrator for Operations Support for TSA under DHS, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so just so America knows, we got two of the honchos here in front of us as it relates to TSA regulations.
Somebody get Clay,
and
he's drunk again.
The effort to introduce security enhancements for our industry partners that fall under the jurisdictional authority of TSA, like our stakeholders running rail and pipelines. In the effort to protect our nation's infrastructure from cyber threat, largely Americans feel quite vulnerable from cyber threat. From sea to shining sea, we are not reassured by what we read in the news every day about a major cyber breach in this industry, a major cyber breach from that massive bank, another major cyber breach in this large government entity. Americans generally get it, that this thing is a moving target and it is a serious threat. And we as a nation, we have to respond. So TSA has its role to play. And Congress has given the Transportation Security Administration the authority to issue what are called security directives. Is that correct, gentlemen?
That is correct.
Okay, so in that time frame, which is in recent history, since 2021, in the effort as a nation to respond to cyber threats, the TSA has issued security directives intended for use against specific threat assessment or threats. However, those security directives have been referenced as generally disruptive to operations and requiring a great deal of coordinated effort at the implementation point that takes away from actual monitoring of threat. There's only so many staff available within the actual entities that operate, say in our rail and pipelines. And if those men and women that are dedicated, they work in that office, if they have to spend so much of their time and energy complying with the regulatory requirements, then they're not investing that energy in the actual monitoring of threats and responding to threats.
Hi, Jen.
So we have a responsibility to attempt to do better. Not that the initial effort was not well intended, and it's just that we're dealing with an emerging and complex threat for the first time in our history.
No,
so, Mr. Lorenz and Mr. Gorman, 2 years ago, Congress passed legislation setting guidelines for reporting cyber attacks at 72 hours. You have to report this within 72 hours to streamline this in the interest of time. Yet in TSA's rule, 72 hours. So in TSA's rule said, well, we're going to do it within 24 hours. And the Securities and Exchange Commission finalized rules in 2022 saying it had 4 business days. So there's a variety of actual implementation responses happening across the government entities that we must harmonize. Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to introduce into the record a media report
people all dressed in
from
black.
November of this year regarding
how many undercover
the
agents
bipartisan
are
effort
in TSA?
to clean up cyber regulations and to pass legislation that indeed does harmonize
Well, of course.
our
Okay, that's a great point. But that doesn't mean you not
HR
regulate your
10123.
industries, dipshit.
Without objection.
Thank you. Gentlemen, we probably have time if the chairman would indulge. Do you see anything more important, Mr. Lorenz and Mr. Gorman, anything more important than harmonization?
No, we're going to stop for a minute. Let's see. This is, what is this, New York Times? Trump transition live updates. Hacker is said to have obtained damaging testimony about Gaetz. This is, this is the New York Times. Here we go. President-elect Donald Trump's Attorney General candidate Matt Gaetz was investigated but not charged with having sex with a 17-year-old girl. The computer file included testimony from the girl. It does not appear to have been made public. Okay, just get the report. An unidentified hacker has gained access to a computer file shared in a secure link among lawyers whose clients have given damaging testimony related to Matt Gaetz, the former Florida congressman who is President-elect Donald Trump's choice to be Attorney General, a person with knowledge of the activity said. The file of 24 exhibits is said to include sworn testimony by a woman who said that she had sex with Mr. Gaetz in 2017 when she was 17, as well as corroborating testimony by a second woman who said she witnessed the encounter. The files were downloaded by a person using the same name, Adam Beasley, at 1:23 p.m. on Monday, according to the person, who was not authorized to speak publicly. A lawyer connected to the case sent an email to the address associated with Adam Beasley, only to be informed in an automated reply that the recipient does not exist. The material does not appear to have been made public by the hacker. The documents include information that is under seal with the Justice Department, which investigated Mr. Gaetz but did not file charges, and the House Committee on Ethics, which has completed its own inquiry into the former congressman. The ethics panel's members are scheduled to meet on Wednesday to decide whether to vote to release material it has gathered. But the hack trove of documents stems from an altogether different source, a civil suit being pursued by a friend of Mr. Gaetz's, Christopher Dorworth, a Florida businessman. Oh, is that what we're calling him now? Mr. Dorworth filed the suit against both the woman who says she had sex with Mr. Gaetz when she was a minor and Joel Greenberg, an erstwhile ally of Mr. Gaetz, who is serving an 11-year prison sentence after pleading guilty to federal sex trafficking charges involving the woman. Mr. Dorworth has claimed that he was defamed by Mr. Greenberg and the woman, both of whom had told federal authorities that Mr. Dorworth hosted parties where they, Mr. Gaetz, and others took drugs and openly had sex. In mustering their defense, lawyers for Mr. Greenberg and the woman have solicited sworn statements from others who say they were witnesses. The 24 exhibits were attached to a motion prepared by lawyers for Mr. Greenberg and the woman in response to Mr. Dorworth's suit. In addition to the depositions from the woman who was a minor at the time of the encounter and the woman who said she was a witness, the hacked information also includes sworn testimony from Mr. Dorworth and his wife, as well as testimony from Michael Fisher, Mr. Gaetz's former campaign treasurer, who is also said to have attended the party. It also contains various supporting material, such as the gate logs, showing who entered the property of the Dorworth home on the evening in July 2017, when the two women said the sexual encounter with Mr. Gaetz occurred. Yes! Yes! It came up. The material apparently, I'll make sure I'll share a gift link. The material apparently taken by the hacker is unredacted. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. And includes the names and other personal information of the witnesses, but is otherwise said to be more damaging to Mr. Gaetz than to his accusers, according to the person familiar with the hack. The hacker had not contacted the lawyers as of Tuesday morning, and it was not clear what motive the person might have. Well, I hope it's justice. Well, my goodness. Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we set out to deceive. Holy shit balls. Holy shit balls. I know, Gal, she says, I have all of that stuff. It's been out for a while. It absolutely has been out for a while. But I say the more drama, that we get around it, the better for the stories to be told and to stick. For crying out loud. Because I'm not getting many followers, but then again, I barely posted anything. I don't know what the secret is. I mean, I got followers only because Greg shared my account. So that's the reason. The only time I get traction is when bigger accounts are featuring me. So, and then I'm just like, no, I've got to be funny. Damn it. No. Thank you, Gal. Thank you for that link. And I'll if everyone's having trouble, I can share a gift link on that one too. Although we should probably wait and see what develops over the morning. Okay, let's catch up with this shithead. Hold on.
Of our security efforts.
I'm going to make him talk faster,
to protect our nation's infrastructure from cyber threat.
TSA supports the overall goal of harmonizing cybersecurity requirements with our industry stakeholders. This is an area specifically we ask for feedback in the NPRM.
I'm sorry, that
and
sounds
based on that
funny.
feedback, based on other efforts and interagency discussions that are ongoing, we anticipate to be able to incorporate that as we move forward into the final rule stage.
Thank you. Mr. Lorenz?
Yeah, I just wanted to also add to Chad's point that it's really important for us to make sure that we continue to collaborate with our stakeholders and provide and receive feedback.
Snowing in Eastern Washington,
to your question
beautiful.
and to your comment, I think it's really important to also address since May of 2021, just in the surface realm,
at 1 1/4
we have held over
speed.
300 industry engagements, whether it's briefings or calls, to make sure that industry had the opportunity to provide feedback so we can receive that feedback and pivot accordingly. And also within the aviation sector, just this year alone, we have had the opportunity to receive feedback from our aviation partners over 126 times to make sure that we understood and we received the feedback based on their operational needs and necessities. So we continue to listen because I think it's really, really important to understand that we're on a journey together. And I really, really appreciate the question and the thought about harmonization as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the indulgence.
Thank you, gentleman from Louisiana. I now recognize the gentleman from Florida.
Is everyone going to get naked soon?
Good morning, and thank you all so much for being here with us today.
Never been with such a love fest.
Mr. Gorman, I'd like to start by addressing this question to both of you, and that is, I'm interested in what are some of the critical things that you identified or addressed through security directives that TSA is considering as part of the formal regulatory process.
I think the most important lesson that we learn collectively with our industry stakeholders in the issuance and the performance of the requirements within our current security directives is that there is no one-size-fits-all when it comes to cybersecurity, particularly when it comes to the complexity of the threat and the complexity of business and operational technology networks in place today. And so we believe and have learned the lesson through the issuance and the maintenance of those requirements in the SDs and moving those into this proposed rule, that a performance-based model is the only way that we will be successful and our partners will be successful
the woman in red
continuing
agrees
to prevent disruptive attacks against our nation's transportation infrastructure. We believe that as you look at the requirements of this rule set, that theme has carried over. But particularly, we are interested in industry feedback as it relates to both
thank you, Gal.
opportunities that provides them to customize
very good background on Gaetz Greenberg story. Here's a podcast series by Orlando Sentinel.
Potential challenges that they see
Gal.
and how we can incorporate that into the final rule.
And tell me, if you would, how that performance-based model accommodates the different sectors
I know, we searched his Venmo account after that
So I believe,
came
again,
out,
in the same
it was
model
public
is that
still.
we establish outcome-based goals across our requirements that are based, again, in industry standards like
Remember
we see in this
Gal?
cybersecurity framework, the Cyber and Infrastructure Security Agency's performance-based cyber goals, and have given those as a platform. Given the model that we have put in place and are seeing results already of in the SDs, we then work with individual individual owners and operators to craft specific implementation plans for those measures that are specific to their industry, their technologies, their operations, and the size and scope of those operations, and the technologies both from a business and from an operational technology perspective they operate. And then based on that and based on an assessment of criticality, they then propose to TSA a timeline of investments and actions to drive towards those requirements. And we have seen early successes in that model and anticipate continuing that as we move into the final rule.
So is it your assessment that that is a sufficient way to identify regulatory requirements that are unique enough for each of the different sectors, that is a sufficient way to accommodate the notion that each of them needs something a little bit different, and the best practices and requirements for each of those different subsectors should be a little bit different? You think that's an adequate way to address it?
I think not only do we believe it's adequate, we believe that is again, an essential way to provide the flexibility across infrastructure, as well as provide flexibility for continuing adapting in persistent threat environment. And so as we again move into a permanent rule stage, we believe that is the way that we will proceed and actually work with our partners for ultimate success.
And Mr. Lorenz, anything to add on that subject?
Yeah, thank you. I think to the points that were made earlier, I think for us, the relationship building is really, really critical. Understanding industry, and to the previous answer, that one size does not fit every one of those entities, making sure that they're able to work together. One thing that's really, really important to mention is that as they build those plans are built with us. We help them through that journey. It's also important to note, before we send out any teams to do any inspections or assessments, we have conversations that take place weeks before to make sure that they're ready. This is not a gotcha mentality. This is all about making sure that we keep the system safe. So we spend a lot of time.
All right, I'm going to make an executive decision because, frankly, I don't even know what the hell we're talking about over here. But what's going on over here? Now this. Wait, let me make this smaller. Sorry, everybody. I was trying to get us like some live news while we were, but I realize it's a little disjointed. But anyway, okay, this. FEMA director, Chinese hacking and UFOs before Congress. This is which one is this? Now I can't remember which fucking, oh wait, what's this? National Institutes of Health. I don't even know what to watch next. Anyway, let's see what's going on.
Investigation, including
Scott Perry, the
her
idiot.
Immediate supervisors and several steps above that.
The investigation includes those that were deployed in this particular incident, and we have found no evidence that there is anything beyond this one employee's specific direction.
You found no evidence at this point. Let me ask you this. Now, you can understand that from America's perspective, certainly the people that weren't visited when FEMA was in town, that it would be in FEMA's best interest to just investigate this internally, say this is a one-off employee, that this claim of hers that it's a culture is just her trying to kind of make sure that the responsibility, the accountability doesn't fall on her. Why shouldn't this be an independent investigation by at least somebody like the IG?
The actions that this employee took are unacceptable.
I know that, and you know that. We agree on that.
I would welcome an investigation by the IG.
But you haven't requested. Will you request one?
I will request one.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes the gentlelady, the ranking member from Nevada, Ms. Titus.
Thank you. I mentioned in my opening statement about how FEMA in the new reality has to deal with misinformation. And then you heard one of our witnesses, the Congress lady from Florida, mention how it had been a problem as they tried to recover from the hurricanes. I wonder if you could talk to us about what kind of policy or official strategy y'all might be developing to deal with misinformation, and how it does indeed hurt your attempts to get relief out to people who've been hit by these disasters.
Ranking Member Titus, we have experienced some level and type of misinformation probably throughout FEMA's history. We have a standard practice of standing up a rumor control page where we can put factual evidence out there. Because part of it is we also have a lot of people that are trying to defraud those that have just lost so much and pretending to be a federal agency such as FEMA to register even on their behalf. So we have had a standing practice of, when we identify this information, of standing up some type of mechanism to ensure that the general public can get factual information from a validated government source. In this case, it would be our source. But we continue to see this rise. We saw an increase in the amount of misinformation during the response to the Maui wildfires. But the amount of information and misinformation that we saw during the responses to Hurricanes Helene and Milton was at a scale that I had never seen before. And so this requires us to now include in our planning and preparedness how we are going to be able to reach people. The goal is not necessarily to take down misinformation, but how do we ensure that people are getting actual correct information so they're not afraid to reach out to their federal agency and apply for the assistance that they need, that they deserve, and that they're eligible for under the law.
Do you provide this information in different languages, and do you work with community leaders who can help you to get the information out, just not elected officers, but church leaders or civic leaders?
We work in a number of ways. For example, during Maui, we had one of our Native Hawaiian employees develop a public security safety announcement and delivered that out through her own social media channels to let people within her community know that they could and should apply for assistance. I remember an opportunity during Hurricane Ida in Louisiana, where we found a Vietnamese community, and we developed information in their native language and sent it out through their channels, and it was one of our most watched videos on FEMA, so we could get them actual information about what resources were available for them. We have a strong network through our faith-based leadership team to reach out to local faith leaders to help us get the information out to individuals and communities that may be apprehensive to try to reach out and apply for assistance. This is a team effort. It takes all of us in this holistic approach to be able to ensure anyone that was impacted by any natural disaster has access to the programs that we have, and that we remove the barriers for them receiving the critical assistance to start their recovery process.
Thank you for that. You know, GAO consistently reports that y'all are
That's a comfy looking sweater,
understaffed.
lady.
We've tried to address that by having people be able to take time off and go back to their jobs to go and fight disasters. I think the most recent figure was 35% below what's needed. And we continue to put increasing demands on the agency. We point out how you fail to be there in a certain amount of time, or not enough people on the ground, or not fast enough.
Oh, I did hear that, Max.
If you don't have the people and the resources to do this work, what can you expect? So could you talk to us a little bit about how you're addressing those staffing challenges and what we might do to be able to help you?
The number that we report on our daily operations brief, which has been in the news as of late, showing that we had less than 5% of our personnel available, is one very specific part of our workforce, and that's those that are solely responsible to deploy to disasters, our disaster workforce. But we have a layered staff to approach when we have multiple events or catastrophic events like we experienced during Hurricanes Helene and Milton. We reach out to our steady state staff and we deploy them out into the field.
Why do you want to be that? Because goddamn, they're going to eliminate the department anyway.
Across the federal government that can
so
go
literally,
out into the
you
field
have no
for 30
job
days.
right away.
And we had over 800 members from across the federal government that went out into the communities to support them. This type of layered staffing approach is what we plan for. We plan for multiple events like this. But we appreciate tools like the CREW Act that was passed recently that give us the flexibility to recruit more people into our reservists, our intermittent workforce, which are really the heart of what we do. And that's the workforce that we need to continue to focus on, because we don't need everybody every day. But given the amount of disasters
you don't have to be sorry. We are all in. We have all of our grim moments.
Of our intermittent, our reservist workforce
that's
is
it. We
critical
just have to
us
move
being able
through
to
it.
do the work.
I don't know. You're fine.
Thank you. Yield back.
Chair, thanks, the gentlelady. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Louisiana, Representative Graves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Administrator, thank you for being here. I want to make note, Mr. Chairman, we've discussed Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton. We have not discussed Hurricane Francine. Administrator, I want to thank you for coming down to Louisiana for that, but I want to tell you why we're not talking about that today. We're not talking about that today because the citizens of Lafourche and Terrebonne Parish, where that hurricane made landfall, imposed both a sales tax and a property tax on themselves, have invested nearly $1 billion in building hurricane protection. We are at an interim phase of protection. We have built an 11-foot levee. Storm surge for Hurricane Francine was 11 feet. If that levee had not been there, if we had not done what we did, we would be having a very different hearing today. Administrator, I want to ask you a quick question.
Then I guess you should vote for infrastructure.
That FEMA is having discussions with Department of Treasury about using ARP funds, American Rescue Plan funds, to help out with recovery. Is that accurate?
With the National Flood Insurance Program at this moment, we are outpacing our payments, over $800 million
Look at
in
that.
payments.
You know, we got Matt Gaetz is a fucking
So y'all are having
Batman
discussions
villain.
about using American Rescue Plan funds for recovery.
We are not using American Rescue Plan.
There's no discussions about doing that.
Not for FEMA using American Rescue Plan.
Okay, because there were reports that FEMA was having discussions about using those. Okay, thank you for
Well, then
clarifying.
it's a
Now,
no,
something else I'd like for you
sir.
to clarify. There's been a lot of discussion about FEMA's
Badger, I've been singing that
emergency,
song too.
food and shelter program and how it's handled. And I just, number one, that's a FEMA program. Number two, that is funded with taxpayer dollars. And so whenever folks say that, well, no, you got to understand it's a different program. These are all taxpayer dollars. And what you do is you triage or you prioritize what is needed, what's most important, and that's where we need to focus. Do you agree with that?
The
Why not make
Shelter
it
Services
12? Feel
Program
better.
is a
At least
program that was
15. Yeah, why
directed by
not?
Congress for FEMA to administer. Yes. at
Right,
the
and so
cost of
these are all
$800
federal
million.
taxpayer dollars, and so if we need taxpayer dollars in a higher priority area, it would make sense to take funds from a lower priority area. What I'm really struggling with is, as I understand, is that in North Carolina, for example, where I visited, you could have a flood or disaster victim that can get a check for $750. Yet when I go through and I look at the programs and resources that are available to a citizen of a different country that came illegally into the United States, under the FEMA administered program using nonprofits, you could be eligible for housing, for food, for transportation,
now that I fixed my
for
mic.
healthcare costs, and others. I was able to come, looking at the very documents that these nonprofits were using,
Don McClain,
I was able to get to a figure in excess of $10,000 for an individual. Let me make note again, that is a citizen of a foreign country. How would I explain to a taxpayer that
to senators to ask them to back Gaetz' nomination. The now former Florida congressman resigned his seat last week, ending a House Ethics Committee's inquiry into a series of troubling allegations, which Gaetz has long denied, including illicit drug use and sex with a then 17-year-old girl at a Florida party in 2017. Attorney Joel Leppard represents a woman who says she was there.
I'm going to say his name
What
every
did your client
fucking
witness
day.
at this party?
She was walking outside to the pool, and she observed to her right her friend, who was 17 at the time, having sex with Representative Gaetz. They were leaned up to what she described to as a game table of some type.
Did your client believe that Gaetz at the time knew that her friend was underage?
She testified that her belief was that Representative Gaetz had no knowledge that she was under 18.
Leppard says his clients, both the alleged witness and another woman, testified to that House committee this spring.
They put up a number of Venmo payments and PayPal payments by Representative Gaetz and asked both of my clients, what were each one of these payments made for. And my clients repeatedly testified, well, that was for sex.
The Justice Department ultimately declined to bring charges against Gaetz, and a Gaetz spokesperson says these are baseless allegations intended to derail the second Trump administration. The House Ethics Committee is set to meet tomorrow, according to a source familiar, to discuss the Gaetz report.
The fact of the matter is, whether we get the ethics report or not, the facts are going to come out.
Also coming under fire, Mr. Trump's pick to run the nation's health agency, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., his own cousin, Caroline Kennedy, the U.S. ambassador to Australia, taking aim at his anti-vaccine positions.
I think Bobby Kennedy's views on vaccines are dangerous, but I don't think that most Americans share them.
We could find out tomorrow whether that report on the House committee investigation will be released. House Speaker Johnson has said he does not think it should be, since Gaetz is no longer a sitting congressman, but also said he's not dictating anything. Back to you.
All right, Hallie, thank you so much. Well, now let's turn to a development in one of President-elect Trump's.
I just wanted to hear, Because you know what? I'm going to say Matt Gaetz' name every fucking day. I'm never going to let it go. Ever. I'm just going to go, well, no, actually.
The taxpayer, a citizen of the United States, is eligible for $750, yet a citizen of a foreign country under your agency is still eligible for assistance of $10,000. How would I explain that to somebody?
Congressman, the resources that are available to people impacted by disasters are a variety of resources, and that $750 payment is just to cover those immediate needs. They are eligible for $42,500 in fiscal year 24 for housing assistance and $42,500 for other needs assistance. Those are the programs that are available to people that were impacted by disasters.
So it's very clear that today, and I just visited North Carolina just a few weeks ago, it's very clear to me that there are folks that are in need right now. The disparity that exists in that a citizen of a foreign country that broke the law and came here illegally is they can get a plane ticket paid for, they can get a hotel room paid for. I think 200 and something bucks a night, if I remember right, in some of the areas of maybe around Midland, Texas.
That's right.
Somewhere
Don't they
around
want a
there.
fake hearing so
Again,
Gaetz can be like
healthcare,
proven
food,
innocent
clothing.
or something?
We have citizens of our own country that I engaged in North Carolina weeks and weeks after the disaster that have some of those same needs. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, there are constantly people that are impacted by disasters
all of these
that weeks
aren't
later
yours,
are not helped. You're
but
absolutely
Administrator,
right, sir.
You understand the ridiculousness of this situation, that we're not helping our own citizens, yet we're out there using our own taxpayer dollars when we have a debt right now of $35 trillion as a nation, and we're helping out citizens of other countries when
maybe
we're
we
not
don't want
even meeting
people
the
dying
fundamental
in the
needs of our own
street.
citizens. This
Hi,
really
Hags.
is an unacceptable situation. And I think if I were in your situation, yes, I understand you're asking for $100 billion, but I think that we should be looking and asking for reprogramming opportunities, because we've got to prioritize the limited resources that our nation has and focus upon our own citizens.
He didn't do a good job of swatting that down. We need people that are willing to stand up to these fuckers.
The chair now recognizes the ranking member of the full committee, Mr. Larson.
Sorry, that's why you get paid a lot.
Just to sum up, I heard you say in the case of North Carolina, and probably in the case of Washington State, if something similar happened, someone would be eligible for up to $85,000 of aid. Is that what I heard you say? 42.5 plus 42.5?
Yes, sir. 42,500 for fiscal year 24. That went up in fiscal year 25, but that also does not include the amount that we pay to support people in hotels, the amount that we put in to support people in manufactured housing units or rent reimbursements. Those do not come out of their $42,500.
And on the emergency shelter support program, did FEMA create that program?
That program was directed by Congress.
Congress created that program.
Congress created that
and
program.
told you to do it.
And asked me to do it, directed me to do it.
Yeah, then we don't ask you to do it.
Yeah, you don't.
We told you to do it. So it's really up to Congress to decide.
Congress directed FEMA to administer the legacy program of ESFP humanitarian assistance, and then the establishment.
I got it. I think we should just issue a mirror to every member of Congress who complains to you about the emergency shelter program, so they.
I could probably not run for dog
doing anything about it, which you're responsible for administering.
Unless we get to a whole like
you're not
weed
responsible
thing.
For creating it.
Correct.
On the disaster relief, so it's $100 billion as a request, not $100 million.
$100 billion,
Yeah,
$40 billion of which is FEMA's request.
$40 billion, which is FEMA's request. And tell me why FEMA needs that supplemental funding, especially for a disaster relief fund, before the end of the year.
We were given the ability to spend against the fiscal year 25 budget with the continuing resolution, which was just over $20 billion. Right. We went into that with a negative because we had paused close to $9 billion in payments through our immediate needs funding for fiscal year 24.
Right.
So the first bills that we paid were those recovery projects in communities across the United States. In Hurricane Helene and Milton, those costs are expensive, and the cost to respond to these two disasters is outpacing all other disasters in the previous 10 years except for Hurricane Maria. And so
I don't want to diminish the importance of Helene.
You didn't miss a thing, Carla.
And Milton, but in that $9 billion, some of that money went to
Carrie.
places that weren't in the Southeast
I'm gonna
or
try.
Appalachia because of outstanding disaster recovery requests. Is that right?
It was projects, over 3,000 recovery projects across the United States we were not able to reimburse while we were in immediate needs funding.
And so that was the 20 billion, and now you're spending the 11 billion plus that which you need otherwise because of Helene and Milton and because of the other outstanding requests that Congress hasn't funded since October 23 and the last supplemental disaster request. Is that right?
We have been very transparent with Congress about what the health of the DRF is and anticipated a shortage going into fiscal year 24 as well as fiscal year 25. We have put forth 2 supplemental requests in fiscal year 24, neither which were allowed. And so we find ourselves in a situation.
Neither of which were passed.
Were passed.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, we're allowed to pass them. We chose as a Congress not to, which is. Again, we should.
Oh, this guy is delivering the booms. Hey, Oren, good
morning. For some of these things, we need to be looking at you. For instance,
bumps for 3 ways.
Assistance, a universal application. As a for instance, we want to get Representative Titus and Representative Graves' bill passed, so there's a universal application instead of having to fill out several applications just to get sort of. It's like trying to fund a road. We got to go for 5, 6 different grants to get a road funded. In transportation rather than just get the one pot of money to do this. And for someone who's in a situation where they're trying to find a place to live because of a disaster, we need to cut down on the time and on the paperwork that they have to do to get access to this. So can you talk a little bit about the need for a universal application?
Yeah, the Disaster Survivor Fairness Act, we really appreciate the efforts that have gone forth with this because it gives us a lot of flexibilities. It allows us to do direct
the disastrous survivor. The closed captions on this are ridiculous.
We want to reduce the burden that these individuals are facing after they have just experienced probably the worst day in their life. And so to be able to make it easier on them is the goal of the universal application.
I want to just conclude by talking a little bit about the politics of the situation. And I condemn what this employee did as well. And playing politics with disaster aid hurts Americans. It hurts all of us, especially when they need the government most. So it's troubling that even the president-elect said he would deny disaster aid to California if the governor there doesn't listen to him. And at an event in September, the president-elect said that the governor of California is going to sign those papers. If he doesn't sign those papers related to California water policy, he won't get money to put out all the fires, and we won't give him the money to put out fires, and then he's got problems. And it's not the first time he's done something like this. And in 2019, the president-elect tweeted billions of dollars are being sent to the state of California for forest fires that with proper forest management would never happen unless they get their act together, which is unlikely. I've ordered FEMA to send no more money. The point I want to make is that it's up to this committee to responsibly hold anyone accountable who is seeking to politicize disaster aid, from a crew leader at FEMA to the president-elect or the president. None of this is acceptable, and we have a responsibility to hold everyone accountable for these comments that get in the way of getting disaster aid to people. And with that, I yield back.
Chair, thanks, gentlemen. The chair now recognizes the representative from Mississippi, Mr. Ezell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Administrator Criswell, for being here today. A few months ago, you agreed to consider the flood maps fully funded by the Mississippi State Legislature and implemented by the Southern Mississippi Planning and Development District.
I feel like some of these guys I've never even seen before.
So many of my constituents are suffering due to FEMA's outdated, inaccurate flood maps. Last month, I hosted a roundtable on this issue and was pleased to hear that your staff is working in good faith with district stakeholders. I'll give credit where credit's due. However, as we've discussed today, the recent reports of one of your staffers intentionally withholding federal aid solely on political preferences beyond unacceptable and dramatically increases the political divide in our country. Unfortunately, we could keep hammering this point,
that's a lot of responsibility.
I want to focus on
Yikes.
something else, some of the things
Imagine
going on
what you guys are responsible for.
One of my goals as a congressman is to improve the efficiency of FEMA. During my first term, I have engaged with Regional 4 regarding the dozens of projects in my district from the Gulf Coast to the Pine Belt that have drug out far too long without a resolution, or in some cases, even without a clear update. These include projects throughout Biloxi, Gulfport, Long Beach, Pass Christian, Bay St. Louis, Waveland, and Hattiesburg. Here's a timeline of events that my staff and I have discussed with your team at Region 4. Administrator Criswell, this upcoming August will be 20-year anniversary for Hurricane Katrina, 20 years. That's nearly 2 decades. The city of Biloxi is still waiting on some of their infrastructure projects. How, 20 years later, are there still unresolved projects from Katrina?
Congressman, recovery is very complicated, and every project has its own unique situation. I'm happy to look into the specific projects
And thank
that you are most concerned
thank you for
about.
that. You know, as you can see, this is pretty hard to defend. 20 years, you know, 20 years is a long time.
You're not
waiting
giving
on
her
to get some
anything to defend
infrastructure
against, you
projects fixed, which have been
stupid
funded.
fucking sack of shit.
Another answer I hope you can clarify for me today. If an applicant identifies an error or omission in the original cost estimate, do you believe FEMA may increase funding for an improved project? Yes or no?
Congressman, I would have to understand the specifics of that to be able to answer it accurately.
If an applicant identifies an error or an omission in the original cost estimate, do you believe FEMA may increase funding for an improved project?
Again, Congressman, without understanding the specifics of that project, I don't have an accurate
Let's
answer.
move on.
What's the
I
amount of
take
the
that as a no.
variance? What are we
According to
talking
FEMA,
about?
this
What's the
project, and this
magnitude?
in
Is there an
Biloxi and
established
based in
policy that
Waveland,
says they have this much what the
Biloxi,
fuck?
correction. According to FEMA, this project has not been finished because it was not accurately estimated. But I have in writing a letter from FEMA right here.
Well, what have
that
you
the
been
most
doing the whole
recent
time then?
CEF in 2019
Have you been waiting for
accurately
this?
reflected the complexity
Have you
of
been
the
waiting for
project.
this moment to bring your
Can
grievance?
you follow up with this letter, and we'll make sure that you
Jesus.
get it, that FEMA has already confirmed and direct your staff to fund the project at the cost accurately reflected?
Congressman, I'd be happy to follow up on that specific project.
Thank you very much. I take that as a yes. The second project that I'd like to raise
Killer
with you today is
Thanksgiving.
the Waveland, Mississippi Pier. In October, I learned that the original reason why this project was not funded was because of the scope of the work had changed. However, the city has told me the project has not changed since day one of the disaster. Now I'm hearing the original project reflected what the city says, but your agency claims it should not have. So now we're kind of back to step one. You know, this stuff just gets so confusing. Our people just don't know which way to go sometimes.
Really? So they come to you?
So
well, that's a mistake.
Was the mitigation work never
Well, then it'll
included
never
to
get
begin
taken
with,
care of.
Or did FEMA include this work by
They've been waiting
mistake?
20 years for you to get off your ass.
Again, confusing. We get one answer from you sometimes, and we try to go along with it, and things just keep changing.
That sounds like a
until
feeling.
It gets so confusing until
We're going
nobody
to do that
really
now.
knows what
We're going
to
to do that. Oh, Stephen
we gotta get this
Spoonamore,
figured
duty to
out.
warn letter. Okay. I'm going to look that up, Paul. Thank you so
As we
much
can
for
see
that.
how this creates so much uncertainty and confusing the people
This is a
who are
committee
trying to
hearing.
navigate
Yeah,
through
I
the
know.
process,
It's kind of
'cause
crazy to
Waveland's
think
got
about it.
Issues going on right now.
Wait until they get to the UFOs.
My staff and I have worked tirelessly to try to work
Don't
some
get
of
it.
these things out with FEMA. But still, if you look at 20 years projects from Katrina that have been funded,
Katrina
that have not
hasn't
been
been done
completed,
anything about.
And you know, I don't
And
want to
at
keep
the
beating
time,
the
I
drum
probably
about
said,
what
"Don't do anything
one
about it."
employee said, or what may be the policy, but you know, I
Stephen
truly hope that the lack of funding these projects isn't
Oh,
due
some
to
of those
Mississippi
missing
being a
votes
red
have been
state.
counted now.
And with that, Mr. Chairman,
This
with
is
that
all
being
very
said, I need a
He is on
commitment
the
from you
verge
today
of some. He's
that
trying.
you will look
He's
into
trying,
all these
Carla. Come on.
projects, that they
Don't
will be
be mean.
handled, and that my constituents will get the help that they need back home.
Congressman, you have my commitment that we will look into all of those projects, and you have my absolute determination that we do not discriminate against any state. We provide support for everyone impacted by disasters.
And we appreciate that, but you know, when you're looking at 20 years from Katrina, we should not be having this discussion. So thank you very much. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Chair thanks the gentleman. The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Washington, D.C., Representative Norton.
Back in the day, you and I were talking about.
Okay, I teed up a Tom Hartman piece on that. Thank you so much.
In the number
Paul
of
J.
and severity of natural disasters, with once-in-a-century storms becoming a matter of course. It is critical to continue to invest in our emergency management workforce to respond to these increasing emergencies and help rebuild affected communities. Yet the Government Accounting Office found that in recent years, FEMA has been significantly understaffed. Administrator Criswell, what actions should Congress take to train, expand, and retain FEMA's emergency management workforce?
Congresswoman Norton, our workforce is the heart and soul of what we do. These are often people that I have talked to that have been disaster survivors themselves and have chosen to come work for FEMA because they wanted to be able to give back like they received assistance when they were impacted. We appreciate the passage of the CREW Act that was instrumental in allowing us the flexibilities to have a more diverse and expansive workforce through our intermittent workers of our reservists, giving them the ability to keep a full-time job, yet deploy when needed to come support people that have been impacted by disasters. I encourage you to continue to reach out to your communities and have them reach out to FEMA. We often hire local hires in communities who turn into our reservists, our core employees, or our full-time employees. And we appreciate Congress's continued support of our workforce, making sure that they have all of the tools and the resources they need to continue to do the critical work of helping people before, during, and after disasters.
Thank you. Administrator Criswell, what would be the impact on communities and disaster survivors if Congress does not pass disaster supplemental appropriation bill?
Our current balance within the Disaster Relief Fund is just under $5 billion. We went into immediate needs funding earlier this year in August when we reached a $3 billion mark. We expect without a supplemental that we will have the need to go back into immediate needs funding within the next few weeks without a supplemental. What that means is we will continue to support the life-saving, life-sustaining work, especially what's going on in Western North Carolina and all of the states impacted by Hurricanes Helene and Milton. But we have to pause the reimbursement to communities that are rebuilding. FEMA reimburses communities as they rebuild and repair their critical infrastructure. Many of these small rural communities often can't move on to the next project until they get reimbursed from the one that they are waiting for. And so this has a significant impact on a community's ability to have an effective recovery when they don't have the cash flow because they're waiting for the federal government to reimburse them for what they are eligible for under the disaster declaration.
I commend you and FEMA's thousands of staff from across the country who left their homes to deploy to communities in need and provide them with assistance in the face of destruction, trauma, and loss. And I urge the House to bring a disaster supplemental appropriations bill to the floor immediately. And I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Chair, thanks to gentlelady. The chair now recognizes the representative from Utah, Representative Malloy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Administrator Criswell, I've been sitting here listening to some of my colleagues talk about how FEMA is battling underfunding and understaffing and misinformation. And I just want it noted that I think the willingness of the public to believe information is a symptom of distrust of federal agencies. And being here and answering questions and addressing these problems is probably the best thing we can do to battle misinformation. If FEMA employees are making political decisions that they shouldn't make and being fired for it, and we're talking about it here, I think that'll help. And then as far as funding and staffing issues, they've got to be at least partly caused by deploying FEMA to non-Stafford Act events. And as a member of the legislative branch, I have a responsibility as a member of this committee to exercise oversight of FEMA. And one of the things that we have to look into is whether FEMA's understaffed and underfunded or if they're outside of their mission. I think it's critical as a member of Congress that we hold agencies accountable to be doing the things they're authorized by Congress and only the things they're authorized to do by Congress. So with those observations, I'm going to yield the remainder of my time to Mr. Graves to continue his line of questioning.
Do you have a specific question?
Thank you very much, Ms. Malloy. I appreciate it. Administrator, I want to get something clear here. I mean, I understand you're saying that there's $42,500 in programs that are available. Let me say it again. There's still $10,000 and maybe even more available for citizens of illegal countries that have come here illegally from other countries that are not citizens of the United States. So I don't think that we reconcile by saying that, oh yeah, but they could potentially be eligible for this much. There still is $10,000 or more that we're potentially giving to people that broke the law that are citizens
like
of other
the
countries
Department
that
of
came to the United
Homeland?
States
Isn't that
illegally.
somebody else?
I understand what Mr. Larson said, Ranking Member Larson said, but the reality is you're the administrator of this agency. You're the one who prepares the budget request that asks for these funds, and you're the one who is sitting here now saying we need $100 billion more. I think it's appropriate in this case to reprioritize funds and say this isn't an appropriate use of taxpayer funds under the fact that we're facing a $35 trillion debt. One of the other issues, the Inspector General report came out just in August, said in excess of $70 billion in unliquidated assets, unliquidated obligations dating back to Hurricane Katrina, 2005, are still out there and aren't being used. Why can't those funds be tapped and get the resources out to the people that need them right now?
Congressman, again, the Shelter and Services Program was directed by Congress for FEMA to administer. The funding for that program was given to CBP and directed by Congress to be transferred to FEMA to administer that program, and we are administering it in accordance with the law at the direction of Congress. As far as the programs and the funds that you are talking about as it relates to unobligated projects dating back to Hurricane Katrina, we consistently review all of the projects that are out there. Projects are obligated at what they expect the cost to be, and we are always reviewing to see which funds are no longer going to be needed because the estimates came in lower, and bringing those back in. We provide
First
this
up, we as a
detail
body
to
actually told them
Congress
to do
on a monthly basis on what those recoupments are.
Thank you, Administrator. Look, last thing I want to say is that I am very concerned about this prejudice, about the Trump signs. I've seen other policies coming out of FEMA that I believe also are prejudiced. You and I have had discussions about some of those, and I look forward to getting to the bottom of this. You have remaining time to share.
It's hard. That makes me very sad.
Who'd you yield to?
You
Okay.
yield to.
I'll take
what?
the remainder of my
thank
time
you.
and yield it to the chairman.
Administrator, just to follow up on my friend from Louisiana here. Look, you're an American citizen. Shelter and Services Program, we get it. We agree. Look, not something I would vote for, but it happened, and you have the job of administering. But you're an American citizen. You see illegal foreign nationals receiving money in the tune of billions of dollars in this administration alone, while the your own citizens in your own country,
When we told you to do that.
Dealing with an agency for which you work.
That's right.
And are being criticized right now because they're not getting the money. Have you requested a reprogramming of this money?
No.
I understand it's been thrown in your lap. I get it. Not something I agree with,
it's
but
actually
it's in your lap. But you
you
see it. Have you requested a
voted
reprogramming of the money?
This is funding, Chairman, that we were directed to administer by Congress.
Exactly.
We're administering it at the direction of Congress.
That's right.
And you have no interest in reprogramming it.
This is funding that was
isn't about my
directed to us to
feelings.
administer.
I understand, but
not
you're a
about
citizen
feelings,
too. You're
bitch.
working here. So do you see this as a misalignment of priorities when you're asking for more money, maybe rightly so, asking for more personnel, knowing that
Mr. Perry,
millions,
Mr.
hundreds of millions,
Trader,
$1 billion
that's a
sent to people here illegally, while people, the citizens of this country, for which the administration and the organization that you work is supposed to be there for them, aren't receiving that money.
Maggots in there.
Do you have any interest in requesting a reprogramming of that funding?
This is funding that was given to CBP and directed by Congress to transfer to FEMA to administer the shelter in service.
Yes, ma'am. I understand that, and I guess I get your answer. I would just say this in support of this organization called the Cajun Navy. People are frustrated and upset with FEMA's response, maybe rightly so, maybe not rightly so. But it seems to me that this nonprofit known as the Cajun Navy can get in the game immediately, make changes on the fly that impact people's lives. They don't have to go through a bunch of red tape and cry. We don't have people. We don't have money. They get people and equipment to the site on time and make a difference. And quite honestly, that's what FEMA should be doing. So maybe FEMA should go talk to the Cajun Navy and say, why can't we do what you're doing? What do we got to change here to do that? And with that, I yield, and I now recognize the gentleman from California, Representative Garamendi.
Oh, he should be dead. This guy, I had him Kissinger years ago.
Mr.
Turn
Chairman,
on your
I'm
mic,
not gonna take the
Fossil.
bait. I think she identified the problem, however.
Fucking Garamendi.
It's us.
Oh, wait. Actually, I
We have
like
a problem
Garamendi.
with what
Sorry.
CBP is doing and transferring the
I always
responsibility
forget that
to
he's not the bad
FEMA.
California guy. He's the good California guy. I love you, John. I'm so
What I
sorry.
really want to get to here.
I remember when I was a kid, though, and
yes,
actually
there
he
is
looked the same when I was a
shortfall of
kid.
funding.
So I'm just saying, I actually
it's been
think
discussed multiple
I
times
might have
here.
had him. I might have
In
had
that
him
funding
Kissingered.
program
Okay,
or the shortfall,
I might have.
there is
Not
a
out of
question about
spite.
unpaid obligations. We've heard
Whoa,
about 20
harassing your
years
friend
ago
at
with
work. What the
Katrina,
fuck?
But there are some that are much more recent, specifically the COVID
I know,
response.
right?
In
Or like
21, 22,
okay.
There was
I feel
a
seen.
federal program
I do love him,
authorized
though.
in
I'm
the
sorry.
American Rescue
Didn't
Plan
he used to be?
that
Video off of
hospitals
the text. Yes,
and other
absolutely.
agencies were directed to provide services, and FEMA programs would reimburse them. You've made good effort on reimbursing them as far as the money would go.
Is that better?
Still about 40% of the money, specifically to hospitals in California and other states, have yet to be paid. In the supplemental that you're requesting,
Oh,
do
sorry.
you intend to
I know what you mean. I'm so sorry.
use some of that
I got it.
supplemental
I'm so sorry.
money
Yes, babe.
to pay for
Yes,
those
Babs.
obligations that
Yes,
were
Babs.
incurred by public agencies, hospitals specifically, so that they would be reimbursed? You're at 60%, there's another 40% to go.
Congressman, part of our supplemental request does include the anticipated
lid,
cost
Patrick,
to
the lid.
reimburse
Patrick, the lid.
jurisdictions, hospitals, and other eligible entities for the costs that they incurred through COVID-19. For the hospitals specifically, we are undergoing an extensive review with a third party to make sure that we're not duplicating funding that they already received. We feel that this is an important step to ensure that we're using the taxpayer dollars to support the actual needs and not duplicating payments that they may have received from other sources or from insurance, et cetera. And so both of those will work in unison as we continue to review the submissions from hospitals. We validate that the costs have not been paid by another source. This supplemental request will include then reimbursing those jurisdictions, those hospitals, those entities for those costs.
I really like your yes, but answer. Normally, we don't like the but part, but I'm pleased to hear that the FEMA is auditing and also very carefully looking into these payments. I'm confident that you won't find a problem in California. I say that with certainty. However, nonetheless, it's important that you do the audits and that you make sure that, and it applies to other programs also, some of those that may date back 20 years or more. So thank you for doing that. I will note that the California Hospital Association believes that there's $1.3 billion that would be appropriately owed to California. However, check to be sure. Moving on, there are other issues that are also in play, some of which are really important in small communities. And I want to thank you for a change that you've made in your policies of prior funding for very small projects for across mostly small communities, some urban, some rural. I believe it's at a $1 million level. That might have enough money to get a large culvert repaired. I would ask you to take a look at that, and probably better to add a zero And once again, the but part of your answer, really important here. So if you're going to put money out
it's
ahead of the
pretty undeniable,
normal
Max. I
process
think
of
you really did
reimbursement,
nail that
good.
one.
It's necessary. The many small
Although,
communities,
again,
counties,
this guy
cities
was like
simply
this
cannot
when I was
front
a
the money
kid.
for 3-4 years before they get reimbursed. However, $1 million is a good step. Add a zero, and you're probably at a level that would allow those communities to get their projects underway. I want to thank you for your courage.
That's
I wanna
true.
thank
$1
you
million
for your,
goes fast when you're building
standing
shit.
tall and honest about the incredible pressure that you've received from the 2 recent hurricanes and from those that have, and other disasters that have been declared. You have an incredibly difficult job, and you are leading in a way that is exemplary. With that, I yield back. Oh, by the way, I got 11 seconds. Mr. Chairman, if we got a problem with illegals getting money, I look forward to your bill.
You might see it there.
Oh!
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Louisiana to make a request.
Mr. Chairman, asking unanimous consent to include in the record November 18th letter from United Cajun Navy official Brian Trasher that includes observations from Todd Terrell, Sarah Galliano.
Yeah, I think the Cajun
and,
Navy
others,
actually has really
related to
excellent
Hurricane
beginnings
Milton
and I think
Without
even
objection,
current
so ordered.
operations. I
The chair
do think
now
there was a couple of
recognizes the gentleman
individuals
from
who've
New
been
York,
connected that
Representative
may
Mullenhour.
not
Thank you,
have,
Mr. Chairman,
may have been
and
untoward,
thank you,
but,
Mr.
Gal knows
I
more
wanna-
about that than I do.
I want to just take issue with, this could be my last 5 minutes on this committee, so I'm going to take all 4 and 4 minutes, 10 seconds. My colleague, Cressy Isle, with all due respect, offered what is by far the easiest and most disingenuous argument. You administer the one department in domestic policy that has to triage and
Just
set
listen
priorities.
and
Your department.
absorb.
And in case of a declared emergency, either as it affords itself under the Stafford Act or by some extension by the president or your own determination, you are empowered and your department is empowered to decide what of the programs you're running today should take precedent or priority over the others. Yes, sure, we can pass a law that limits the shelter and services funding, that stops dollars to getting to illegal immigrants, but you have to make that decision every day. It's the only department in the federal government that empowers you to do so. My colleague, Mr. Graves, said somewhat earlier that you have to agree that it is absurd for Americans in the South, having now faced what is by far among the worst emergencies to befall our country, that they see those who are placed here, illegal immigrants placed here by their federal government. They see the not-for-profits you engage with handing out ease of access dollars
Your guy
while they have
won.
to struggle to
Okay,
get first
relax.
to 750. I administered
Calm
emergency
down.
response for 20 years at the county level. Believe me, there's a lot of improvements and coordination that FEMA must engage in. But do you see the absurdity? Because I haven't heard an answer that suggests it.
Sounds like a
do you
feeling.
see the absurdity
Sir,
that
that sounds like
American
a feeling.
citizens are getting their 750
Am I here to
and then,
testify
yes,
about
struggling
my
through a
feelings?
very
Is that
complicated
what I'm here to
process
testify
to meet the
about? I would
thresholds
actually
necessary
say
to
that,
get
and
the
I
aid
would
they
get in
need
trouble.
to have housing, food, and shelter.
I would
While
get kicked out of
your
my own
agency
hearing.
is contracting with not-for-profits to
Like,
easily
sir,
hand out access to those who are here placed
you
here illegally.
understand?
Do you see the absurdity?
Do you see the absurdity of you
Congressman,
asking
our
me
mission
about
is
my
to support
feelings?
people, help people before, during, and after disasters. And I
Do
make
you think that
priority
there is,
decisions
ma'am,
every
do you
day.
think in responding to an emergency, the priority of government ought to be to
Sir,
ensure that American
I think
citizens
that
are
Congress
triaged
tells us
and
how
that the
to spend the
services of
money.
FEMA are
Good night.
focused on responding to
Then
them
take it up with
and
your
their
brothers
service
and sisters
programs
in Congress.
first?
Oh,
I
that's right.
absolutely
You
believe
didn't
that
win.
the services that FEMA provides
So
should
fuck
be
all the way
supporting
off.
the people that have been impacted by disasters.
Should there be equity in that distribution and response? Should
Oh
there
my
be
God, would you
fairness in that
stop?
response?
Every situation is different and
make
it's
sure that
different
all
money, you
people
stupid
have
motherfucker.
access to
And
our
you are
programs
the
and that we
ones
remove
Fair enough.
the
So
barriers.
it's my time, and I get 4
authorized
minutes,
it.
2 minutes to do it. So in fairness, do you not see the inequity in those placed here illegally,
Oh my God.
having taxpayers
Placed
support
here
a plane
illegally?
ticket, a house, a hotel, food, cell
House?
phones,
They all get
access
houses now?
to health care?
Wow.
Do you not see the inequity that they have
Oh, you
access
mean we're not
immediately?
leaving people starving
I want
on
us
the
to be a welcoming
street?
nation.
Oh.
But if we cannot
Why aren't
respond
we
to those who are
doing
living in
that?
emergencies,
Are there no
then we
prisons?
do not have the right
Are
to
there no
claim that we are the
workhouses?
Federal Emergency Management Administration. Do you not see the inequity?
That's a feeling.
Congress, direct.
Not
No,
here to-
Congress
I'm not here to
established
comment
law.
on my feelings.
You have to prioritize, triage, and decide. During COVID, there were federal agencies and local governments who were responsible for providing lots of services. We said, in this emergency, you're not going to do that. We told federal employees, get back out onto the ground because you've got to respond to a public health pandemic, and most of them were never involved in public health response. You established the priority. Why can you not say today that the priority ought to have been to make sure that American citizens were getting first response, adequate response, and not distracted response? Why can you not say that?
Where's my fucking blog?
Our priority is the American people, and we administered our disaster programs.
And you will not admit to or acknowledge the inequities. I'm not trying to be combative.
You're
This is
trying
absurd.
to ask her, you're an idiot. We don't like
Today,
you. Here we go.
When you spend some time and my colleagues talk about misinformation, first, misinformation is freedom of speech, whether it's true or not.
Okay, wait. Blob,
come back. But you know what fuels misinformation? The inequity that FEMA has engaged in. Because it allows for people to assume, whether true or not, a level of either incompetence, inefficiency, or lack of concern for those who are struggling the most when they see individuals enter this country illegally and then are transported here and receiving services. And you know that it is easier to access the shelter and services funding than it is to access disaster relief aid, housing assistance, small business aid. You know that it's more complicated.
Last 2 minutes
Doesn't that in and of itself fuel the misinformation?
Congressman, we are administering that program as directed by Congress.
You are not administering the program as directed by Congress. We established the law, we established the provisions, and we expect the person, whether it's the president or the administrator of FEMA, to decide what is and is not priority in response to emergency. And by that very measure, with all due respect, the agency has failed. And it has lost focus. My time is up. I yield back to the chairman.
Chair thanks the gentleman. The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Oregon, Representative Horton.
Let's wait down there, Blobby. You'll have a roll.
Thank you,
Don't
Mr.
worry.
Chair, and thank you for being here. A few things, you know,
Miss Hoyle has a lot of stickers on her iPad,
fires,
on her Surface.
ice storms, floods that have gotten more and more severe. This year, we've had 1.9
when he's throwing paper towels at
acres
you.
of land that was burnt with fires, and that is over twice the 10-year average.
Red, white, and blue nails.
But as things are getting hotter and drier and climate is getting more extreme, some of my colleagues want to argue about why, but what I want to say is the fact of the matter is FEMA is set up for when natural disasters happen every once in a while, maybe every 6 months. And so you have a lot of temporary Stafford Act employees. Is it true that 4/5 of your employees are in that temporary Stafford Act category?
Ma'am, can you repeat the number that you said?
4/5. My understanding is 20,000 out of your 25,000 employees are in that. Is that
I
inaccurate?
believe that would be high.
I don't think
believe
so.
about half of our workforce, maybe a little bit more than half, are direct employees out of the Disaster Relief Fund and support disasters directly. The rest support our steady state missions.
Okay, so half of your employees, and the fact is this has become
This is a great question.
a full-time job. I represent a lot of rural communities. I've never seen a difference between how FEMA treats
He's
my
gonna
rural
build the wall with it, I
conservative
bet.
areas and my more blue areas. And it seems like you had an employee that acted inappropriately, unethically, in an untrustworthy manner, and then lied about who apparently, according to the facts that we know so far, lied about who was responsible for that, right?
We had a single employee that took actions that were unacceptable by directing her team to avoid homes.
Right. I just think that if you have an employee that acts in an unethical manner, it follows that maybe they're not telling the truth. But again, I've never seen any difference. And I'm going to go on to a different subject because I do represent Oregon. We had 23 fires in mid-July at the same time, earlier than we'd ever have fires, 23 incident command centers. Just following a massive ice storm, we had floods. We have, you know, our rangeland, our ranchers, our farms that were burnt. Now, we have a mix of federal and state and private land. And our governor has asked for President Biden to approve a major disaster declaration for wildfire and storm damage between July 10th and September 7th. Our requests include public assistance for our 6 frontier counties, Gillum, Grant, Jefferson, Umatilla, Wasco, and Wheeler, hazard mitigation grant programs to support projects that reduce the impact of future disasters, and a state cost-sharing waiver, waiving the state's cost for emergency work in response to this disaster. This has been the most expensive fire season ever, and what it seems like is FEMA is looking at each of these fires individually, when really what we would like to see is for all of these to be taken together, because that's how we had to manage it. So when can this, and if you have to get back to me, I understand, because this isn't a committee hearing on this, but when can the state reasonably expect a response to the disaster declaration request? We have our farmers and ranchers that are really, really struggling, have lost everything, and they really need this help.
Congresswoman, we did receive that request from the governor, I believe, on
Heather
October
Koch-Richardson
21st,
followed me back.
And I recognize and know how important this is to you. I will certainly go back and follow up with my team to see where it's at in the process, and we'll get back with your staff.
Okay, and then the disaster declaration process often feels
I don't know if she's
slow to
real or
affected
not. I don't
communities.
care.
We've had this again. Blue and red districts, and I do think that your agency has a giant job and doesn't necessarily always have the resources to do it. How can FEMA streamline the steps between the agency receiving a disaster declaration request and submitting a recommendation to the president?
All right.
You know, the biggest thing that we see is really at the capacity of the state and local level, and whether or not they have the resources
See you
to
later,
be able
alligator.
to
See you
quickly
tomorrow
and
morning,
effectively
hopefully. Bye,
determine the
love.
amount of damage and submit that paperwork. We've been increasing our support by putting what we call FEMA integration team members and embedding staff right with state offices so they can assist with that process. We have 10 regions and a regional administrator over each of them that have great relationships with the state directors.
woman's
and
the
work very
only
closely
witness?
with them to help them understand what the steps are, where they need to go, and to work through and provide technical assistance as needed.
We're over time. What I will say is these are
Imagine what that plane must have
cash-strapped
smelled like.
rural
Seriously.
counties that
Seriously.
lost a lot of their economic engine when the timber industry
Junior and his
crashed.
Coke sweat.
And so they're doing the best they can, but what I would say is we really need to figure out
the slowly
how to
deteriorating
get these answers quicker, and thank you for your response.
president-elect.
Gentlelady yields. Chair now recognizes Representative
Am I
Stahl.
staying for the UFOs?
Thank you very
Are the
much,
UFOs coming?
Administrator.
I
Thanks
don't
for
even
being here
hear
today.
anything about UFOs.
And also, thanks for your service in the Colorado National Guard. I appreciate that.
I don't really understand.
I also
Has anyone watched the
appreciate
Danielle
your,
Moody show?
willingness,
Highly recommend. Really?
to tell
Paul
us, and
J.
you've
I'll
been
have to check
in
it
several
out.
committee hearings
I know.
to talk about how you
Drakkar poop
let
sweat,
that employee
right?
go who weaponized the federal government. The federal government has been weaponized against the American people. This is case in point. I think you did your job, and I think you did it well.
Drakkar
You terminated
poop
that
sweat,
employee
fry,
who
grease, and
weaponized the federal
bronzer.
government as quickly as you can.
I just
And I
had
think
to
we
sing
need
that.
to do more
Oh,
of
a
that.
sweater.
With that being said,
are you chilly? Are
your
you
mission
chilly,
statement is
Mr.
helping
Stauber?
people before, during, and after disasters.
Drakkar poop sweat, fry.
When you were in the Colorado National
fry,
Guard,
grease, and
did you have annual
bronzer.
reviews?
Did I have a what?
Annual reviews?
I was a traditional Guard member. I wouldn't have had a.
Well, you'd still have annual reviews, okay? Outstanding, meets standards, and does not meet standards? Would
Oh,
that
we're
be
all
fair
going to
enough?
develop psychic
as I
powers with the
recall.
Pluto
Okay.
transition. Fuck
So,
yeah. I love Zane.
If you were in the Colorado National Guard,
Comma
and you were in
admitted. Our
charge
Capricorn's
of
going to do okay,
disasters
Max,
in
because I think
Colorado,
we are. I think
and
we're
the
okay.
tag said you're
But that
responsible,
bitch
and
promised
there was
me
a
true
major
love way
disaster
too many times.
that the National Guard had to be brought out in
I'm
Colorado.
just kidding.
And it took 3 days for you to
Excellent. Thank
deploy.
you. Thank you for that. African American
And
influencer
5
smart
days to
enough.
even
Point
get into
wonderful.
some neighborhoods.
Just we ready.
Would the tag say that's acceptable
Just
for
us
you
being
as
ready.
the
Drag
leader
our
of the
poop,
management
sweat,
team,
fragrance,
emergency
and
management team?
bronzer.
Congressman, FEMA was on the ground
The
before the disaster happened.
So let me, we had 2 members
Oh
of
my
Congress
God, I
that represent
can't.
770.
I can't. I feel like I've heard of. Does she
stood
have a
here or sat
TikTok,
here just
Paul J?
within the hour and said
I feel like maybe that's where I know
there was
that name from.
people that didn't even get responded to for 3 days.
How can these
and
guys make
some
stuff so
in a
boring?
week. So that
They
contradicts what
really
you
haven't
just said.
brought the energy back with
Okay?
them from their
I'm
little
asking
break.
You, if you were in Colorado, what would the tag do to you if you didn't
tiny
respond for 3
break.
days to the citizens of Colorado in a disaster?
Oh my God! Oh no!
Congressman,
What's going on here?
Would he
I
be
don't know
upset with
that.
you, or would she or he be upset with you?
Congressman, our teams were on the ground before the
Ma'am,
disaster
ma'am,
happened.
with all due respect, I'm not
Search and
asking,
rescue
ma'am, I'm not
teams
asking
were
that question. I'm not asking that question. I asked you, would the tag be
You need to
disappointed
shut the
in
fuck
you
up, sir, and
if it
take a
took you
fucking
3
several
days to
steps
help
back?
the citizens of Colorado or some
I
neighborhood?
think the
Would he be,
Adjutant
would he be
General of Colorado would be impressed with the way FEMA responded to this disaster.
Ma'am, I'm trying to help you here. I understand you have a tough job.
I
I want
don't need
you
your
to be
fucking
able
help,
to tell the American people
douchebag.
that we could have done better. And as a traditional guardsman, I totally respect your service. And I expect honesty.
Excuse
and
me?
you should expect honesty for my questioning.
Excuse
I
the
asked
fuck out
you,
of me?
Would the tag be upset with you?
There you go. Right, Sir,
If
I
you
cannot
didn't
speculate
send your,
about the mental state of another
people
person in a
into disaster
hypothetical
in Colorado
situation.
for 3 days, and
Zane
sometimes
is
some
an
neighborhoods didn't
astrologer
get it
who's
for 5.
actually
Would the
really,
tag be
I
upset
really
with
like her.
Well, that
Max
information
turned me
is
on to
inaccurate,
her.
and I would hope he would look for accurate information.
I'll look
Ma'am,
up her channel.
How would you score yourself
Oh my
in
God.
this response
I would give
to
myself an
Helene?
A. Why don't you go
think
fuck
that there's
yourself?
Would you score yourself outstanding?
Yes.
Would you score yourself outstanding?
Yes.
Meets standards?
Outstanding.
Or does not meet standards?
Outstanding.
I am incredibly proud of the work that the
Outstanding.
22,000
Just say
members
it.
of this workforce
Say it, honey.
have done to
Come on.
support the American
You got
people
this.
across 6 states impacted by one of the most
Administrator.
catastrophic events.
Zane Zodiac.
in
Thank you
recent
so
years.
much, Max.
Administrator,
Thank you so much.
We had 2 members of Congress that would challenge you
I
on
don't
that
like you.
statement.
Stop pointing at her. It's rude.
Their
Did your mother
American
ever teach you
citizens
anything?
Needed you at the time. They needed you, and they're still needing you for 3 days. I mean, we had a major disaster in Minnesota. We had a governor for 3 days that watched Minneapolis burn. That's unacceptable.
Sir,
Simply
you are really,
unacceptable.
God, man, this guy's a fucking
And I would just
dick.
hope that, as we go
Stop
forward,
her.
I don't want to politicize this. I
You
mean,
just
we-
fucking
there's enough.
did.
But
Oh my
your
God.
response, you're the
you think
leader.
we're
The
as
buck
dumb
stops
as your
with you.
voters?
From the testimony I heard here.
Thank you.
from the
Thank you,
representatives
Oomph.
of the
There's the
people, it was
YouTube channel for
disappointing.
Zane
Do you
Zodiac.
think you could have done better?
I want to meet
encourage
this
you,
congressman's
to read my
mom. I
written
sure as hell
testimony,
do.
Which describes in detail how we were on the ground before the disaster happened.
you
And I
think you-
respect the testimony of the
You
2
think-
panel members earlier.
Do you think you could have done
Stop
better?
interrupting.
We can always improve, and we will review all
Is that
of
a
our
yes?
response efforts.
No.
Is that a yes?
Nobody
In
is
that
perfect,
situation, no,
Congressman.
she
We
did
can
a good
always
job.
improve, and we strive to always improve on the
Do you
way
think
we
you could have
deliver
done better,
service.
though? Yes?
We can always
No.
do better.
Listen, I
didn't
want to
win,
thank you
bitch.
for your service. It's not easy, but when we come and ask you questions, we just expect, this is a dialogue. You represent us, the people. And if
I
it
know.
happens in Minnesota, I would expect you to be there as quickly as I can.
Right.
And I would say
And she will.
that from the statements of the
Why are
2
you pointing?
representatives, both a Democrat and Republican, you could have done much better in the response, and I yield back.
Okay, and I'm going to shut my mic off now because you're going to yell at me.
Gentleman
'Cause I'm a
yields.
little pussy.
Gentleman from South Dakota, Representative
A
Johnson.
good kind, a bad kind.
So under the heading of ways that we can all improve, I want to look at the ways in that the current legislative regime, I don't think provides enough flexibility to states. I'll tell you what I mean. So now when a president declares a federal disaster.
What is that?
In those affected areas,
Oh,
governors
Jesus.
can have
What
the
the hell is this?
flexibility
Who
to
are all these
increase
guys?
the weight limits on interstates.
Did
Makes
they
sense,
just
makes
wake up that they're
the
in this
delivery of
Congress?
recovery and disaster supplies a lot more efficient. I think we've heard two things from you today, Administrator, with your colloquies with some of my colleagues. Number one, as you said to Mr. Ezell, recovery is complicated and it can take a long time. We all know that's true. And number two, disaster supplies can get pulled in from a large geographic area.
Oh, interesting.
So here I think are the weaknesses in
no
the
one will ever know
current
if they mean
legislative
anything.
regime, and
Yeah.
you'll tell me where my assumptions are wrong. So first off, recovery can take a long time. Right now, when the president issues this disaster declaration, I think governors are only given the flexibility to increase those weight limits for 120 days. Clearly, recovery can take a lot longer than that. Number two, disaster supplies get pulled from a large geographic area. If you're a governor in a state where the disaster supplies originate, so you're not in the area that's been impacted directly by the disaster, but you've got supplies that can help those folks a couple of states away.
I did not know
you don't
that,
have the
Max. How has that not come up on
flexibility
trivia?
to increase the weight limits on the interstates within your state. So the MOVE Act, which is a bipartisan effort in this committee, Mr. Costa and myself, would provide flexibility in both those areas.
What are we talking
by
about
moving the amount of time that governors can have that flexibility from 120 days to 270 days. And then, again, large impacted area allows governors to waive those weight limits if they're in an area where the supplies originate. So, Madam Administrator, the MOVE Act, does that sound like that would increase the efficiency and the effectiveness of disaster response?
Congressman, I know that as I've worked many disasters across the United States, we are often reaching out to the Department of Transportation to help waive some of the limitations to move supplies across. And so I think anything
amazing
that
how
makes it
young
easier to move
our
resources
human
in support of
knowledge
immediate
is,
response efforts
you know?
would be welcomed.
Anything else you can think of in the transportation, logistics, supply chain space that would make it easier for us to get supplies to the people who need them?
Oh,
Congressman,
hoverboards.
I think the biggest thing that we
Hoverboards.
have and the biggest resource we have is the Emergency Management Assistance Compact, which allows governors to request resources from other states.
Flying
which then,
wings.
If a federal disaster
With
declaration
flying
is
packs.
declared,
Jetpacks,
those costs are all
jetpacks.
reimbursed through the disaster declaration. Those types of resources and tools
Meanwhile,
to
everyone
be able
could
to share
always see
resources
Uranus.
across states are the things that actually make a big difference in the
That's my
speed and the
favorite.
delivery of governors being able to support their communities that were impacted.
Yeah, I do think those aspects, as well as passage of the MOVE Act, would help
Uranus
recovery
experienced a
efforts.
freak event. That's going to be my
We talked a
favorite
little bit about this
headline
terrible
forever.
employee, this crew leader that you had, ma'am. Obviously, you weathered a lot of questions about that. I think you've been upfront that this was a bad employee who was terminated from her job. Is there a culture problem within FEMA? I mean, is this a one-off, or are there other employees who would, as Mr. Stauber said, would be interested in weaponizing government against citizens?
The actions of this
Saturn isn't
employee,
real.
Are unacceptable, and it is not indicative of the culture of FEMA, and I do not believe that there
Man
is a
invented the
widespread
wheel, okay? So how
I
did
have
fucking
directed
Saturn
ongoing
get
investigations,
rings?
working with the
All right,
IG,
if
working
man
with the
wasn't there
Office
to
of the
invent
Special
it, come on
Counsel,
now.
And if we find any other
Yeah,
acts of similar behavior,
It's very
we will take
subjective,
appropriate
very
disciplinary
subjective.
measures.
So what should Congress, what should this committee look for? I mean, we
I'm
want to
such a
take you at your word. We want to believe that we don't have a culture problem within FEMA. What should we be looking for over the course of the next 3 months to validate your assertions?
I think that you should look at the results that we come out with from ongoing investigations and the amount of assistance that we continue to provide in communities and the support during their recovery process. We will be with them throughout their recovery, helping them rebuild in a way that's going to make them more resilient against future disasters.
Would an investigation from an inspector general or an ombudsman or some other third party help increase the confidence of this committee that your assertions are accurate?
We are currently in conversations with the IG, and I would welcome an inspection from the IG. And as I stated to Chairman Perry earlier, I will personally request that investigation from the IG.
Very good. Thank you. I yield back.
Chair, thanks, the gentleman. The chair now recognizes Representative Webster from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This question is on behalf of Lake County, one of the 4 counties I represent in Florida. It's critical for communities to know what is and what is not eligible for FEMA reimbursement. So they can plan accordingly for a natural disaster. Counties may have in place sort of a debris removal contract in advance of the disaster, so the debris removal can move quickly and follow up from the storm. However, depending on the circumstances, actual costs may exceed the contract. Unfortunately, my office has not been able to get a clear answer from FEMA on whether or not the increase is reimbursable. And I just asked the administrator, are those costs
I feel like I want to take
reimbursable,
medicine when I
or
listen to these
the communities
guys.
only reimbursed at the amount that they had in a pre-existing contract?
Congressman, I would need to understand the specifics of what they're asking for, and I'm happy to follow up with you and your team on that case to see what's eligible and not eligible.
I think that what they're asking is, okay, there's this contract, they have it, and they perform that, although the contract was exceeded. And so are by exceeding it, they only get what they had a contract for reimbursed, or can the excess also be reimbursed?
On the basis of what you're saying, that doesn't sound like a reasonable approach from FEMA. We would be reimbursing all eligible costs. And if they had to incur additional costs beyond their contract, that should, from what you're saying, fall under the eligible circumstances. But I would, again, have to see that specific case.
Thank you very much. Go back.
Chair thanks the gentleman. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from New York, Representative D'Esposito.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Administrator. How are you? First, I want to start off with, I'm sure as you've heard time and time again from colleagues on this committee, it's absolutely reprehensible to withhold aid and support based on political affiliation. As you know, in addition to being on this committee, I serve as the subcommittee chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee's Emergency Management and Technology Subcommittee that is also looking into this matter. Additionally, I was the chief of the Island Park Fire Department when Hurricane Sandy brought destruction and devastation to Long Island. And I will tell you that no political affiliation, no campaign sign, nothing would have prevented me and those who served under me from helping our neighbors. So I'm sure you can understand why reports of FEMA employees skipping homes based on political affiliation and support of President-elect Donald Trump is both shocking and absolutely disturbing.
Paul said, wait, why does
First
nobody
off,
mention that
what
the
has FEMA done or planning to do to ensure the homes that were passed
I did not know that.
because of President Trump's signs are made whole?
Congressman,
I did not know that.
I appreciate your ongoing support of FEMA, and I share your concerns over the actions of this employee. We have first terminated that employee to ensure that we can continue to do the good work to support the American people. We have also sent in an additional team to go to those 20 homes that we have identified as having been skipped over to ensure that they have had an opportunity to register for assistance. And we've provided refresher training to all of our staff in the field to remind them about the importance of serving all people, meeting them where they are, and ensuring that anyone who has been impacted has an opportunity to apply for assistance.
Okay. So the employee at the center of this, who, as you said, was terminated, which I appreciate that, and I think that that was the correct course of action. But she claims that her instructions were part of a, quote, institutional FEMA policy of avoiding potentially hostile homes. So I think you briefly touched on it, but what are your plans to change or clarify this, what could be a very bogus policy, but nonetheless one that people in FEMA feel that exists, to make sure that it never happens again?
There is nowhere in any FEMA policy, any training material or information that would direct any of our staff to avoid a home because of a political sign in their yard. We do provide training to our staff about aggressive behavior and how they can make sure that they can feel safe. And as we have conducted this refresher training, we have reminded them that this is reactive behavior when somebody is approaching you, not proactive to discriminate against somebody.
Right, thank you.
Good.
And now I'm going to bring it a little closer to home. So earlier this year on Long Island, there was a 1 in 1,000 year rain event, which produced nearly 10 inches of rain, leading to widespread flash flooding that caused road closures, travel disruptions, and significant damage to public and private property. Following the rain event, the New York State applied for both public and individual assistance from FEMA. The state was successful in receiving a declaration for public assistance. However, individual assistance was just denied last week. And I know that this is an issue both my colleagues from Long Island, Mr. Lolo and Mr. Garbarino, are working on. But FEMA's public assistance program has defined the threshold of $37.5 million in damages for eligibility to New York State. However, according to the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services in New York State, determining eligibility for individual assistance is more complex
The
and
threats
cannot
were
be
the
assessed
reason
as
behind,
straightforwardly as the
that they
public
were
assistance
being threatened
threshold.
by others. Yeah.
So first, is there
You
a
know what?
comparable
I say-
threshold or specific
I
dollar
understand
amount for uninsured damages
the optics
that
of it,
must be met
but I
for a
also
disaster to
understand the
qualify
employee
for
trying to
individual
protect her
assistance?
staff.
Our individual assistance
So,
program does
sounds
not
like it
use
was a
very
little more
clear-cut
complicated, and that
guideline
woman
like that
probably
because
just
we
sacrificed
understand that
herself for
community
the
impact could also
for the
be a
cause.
consideration. And if a community has had such significant trauma to it, we wouldn't want an arbitrary line, an arbitrary number to prevent them from getting assistance. So we have flexibility within our authorities to understand the impact of a community, but also what the availability and the capacity is of the state or the local jurisdiction to support them.
So we're going to be talking about this in the Homeland Subcommittee, but if you wouldn't mind, if you could have you and your staff, if you would be willing to provide more detailed
do a bunch of
information on
work.
how those thresholds
Yeah, could you do
for
a bunch of
individual
work for
assistance
us?
are determined. I understand that it's sort of a cloudy area.
Yeah.
But
Could
that
you
would
just
be able
add
to
that to your list of
help
things
us
to
on
do?
Long
Thank
Island
you.
assist our neighbors and give them concrete answers as to what they're dealing with. I know that, again, Mr. Lolo and Mr. Garbarino are both dealing with a lot of phone calls, a lot of concerns, people that really don't know where to turn to next. And as we know, these storms were devastating, unexpected.
One of the
which
things
sometimes
I
makes them
did
even more
as the leader of a
and we
school
just want to give them
was
answers. So if
made
you could,
sure that when there
provide
was
little bit
a
further detailed
situation
information, we'd all appreciate it. Mr.
that
Chairman, I yield
everyone
back.
in the school community
Thank you,
had
gentlemen. The
access
chair
to
now
resource
recognizes
numbers.
Representative Yakum.
I actually made that one of
Thank
my
you, Mr.
first
Chairman, and
responsibilities
thank you
was
for
to
being
figure
here,
out
Mr.
how are
Criswell.
people going to get their
The
questions
hardworking men and
answered
women at
during
FEMA
this
have
X
an
situation.
important role to play in our communities, helping lift up their fellow Americans when they've been knocked down by a
Why aren't
disaster.
those representatives
But
doing the
recent
same?
months
Why
have
aren't they
exposed a
already curated a
capabilities
list
gap
of resources
and
for
a
people that
trust
call
gap.
in? Why?
And that trust gap
That's
is
terrible.
no act of God.
That's
And I
irresponsible.
want to better understand this recent
That's poor
scandal in which
stewardship
houses
of
in
your-
Florida
of
were
your-
skipped by
of your
FEMA canvassers
constituents.
because of Trump signs in their front yard. You've referenced an investigation that is
Paul. Haven't
currently
heard.
underway. There have been concerns expressed that FEMA is deleting emails related to the employee's assertion that it was a directive from her supervisors to skip homes displaying signs supporting President Trump.
You
Ms.
guys
Criswell,
are making
can
too
you
much of a
commit
thing
to
about
us
this. I'm
today
sorry.
that all
I'm not,
FEMA
I feel bad
records,
for anybody who's
including
been in a
Teams
storm,
messages,
and I feel bad for the
emails,
20
and
people.
text messages
These guys
have
are
been
fools.
and will be preserved.
Are we
for
going to
this
go
investigation?
ahead and really beat
Congressman,
this
all
horse?
of our records are preserved, and
Could
I
we
can
beat this
commit to
horse,
you
sir?
that any requests that you
Ma'am?
make, we will make sure to send them to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You've been
You're
fairly
gonna read 'em?
consistent
Okay.
and insistent that this was one employee who acted alone, but are you able to guarantee
Yes.
that no
Can
one
you
at FEMA
guarantee-
headquarters gave verbal or written
That's
guidance
right.
in
I
the
want-
wake of hurricanes
I want you to
Helene
swear.
and Milton that recommended skipping or that otherwise warned
if you turn
canvases
in your
about interacting
neighbors,
with
I'll give
houses
you a
with Trump
break.
signs in their lawn?
We are continuing to investigate the circumstances
spending time
surrounding
investigating
this, but I
this
have
thing
been
that should have
presented
just
with no
been
evidence at
a
this point
clarification
that
and
there
a
was anything
personnel
beyond
matter, but
this
then
one
everybody
person's
made it a
direction.
big deal. So
And what
thank
steps
you.
will you take? Because it sounds like you cannot at this point guarantee that is not taking
Oh my
place.
God.
What steps are you taking
Fuck
at
you.
FEMA headquarters
Fuck
to
you.
ensure and
Fuck
guarantee us
you.
that no guidance was given from headquarters
Fuck
to
you.
skip over houses that were canvassed?
Shut up.
Skip
Shut
over houses
up.
that have Trump signs in the front yard.
Again,
Shut
we want
up.
to make sure that all people impacted by these disasters have
Exactly.
the assistance that they're eligible for and that they deserve.
Pay attention.
We are continuing to conduct an investigation. Our Office of Professional Responsibility is currently working alongside
we're
the
all
Office of the
working
Inspector
hard on
General.
something that should have
We
been a
expect them
memo.
to fully investigate the circumstances around this to ensure that this was only a single incident.
And the employee at the center of the scandal hinted that a policy to skip houses with Trump signs may have also been in place in North Carolina as well. Are you able to guarantee that there was not a similar policy in North Carolina?
Again, I have seen no evidence that shows that this was anything beyond this one person's specific instructions to her team.
The number one goal under FEMA's strategic plan
Okay, I
for
don't know what your answer
2022
was,
through
but I'm going on to my
2026
next
is
question.
What? What is the number one goal under your strategic plan?
Equity as a foundation of emergency management.
And for reference, what was the number one goal under the 2018 through 2022 strategic plan?
I do not know that was before.
To
my
build a culture of preparedness. Does skipping houses with Trump signs advance
Oh my
equity, which is your number
God.
one strategic plan goal?
Equity, as we look at it, is to make sure that we are reducing barriers for anybody that has a need to access our programs. And so
Yeah,
we are
how much
ensuring
money
that we are
did
taking down
hurricane
barriers
relief
so
money did
all
Casey
people
DeSantis take?
impacted by disasters
Steal.
have access to the programs that they need and that they are eligible for.
And equity, according to FEMA's own guidance, which, in the executive order signed by President Biden, executive order number 13985 defines equity as, quote, the consistent and systematic, fair, just, and impartial treatment
Right,
of all
and somebody
individuals.
fucked up,
Do you believe
okay?
that the individuals with Trump
And
signs
guess
in their
what?
front yard
We
were treated
fired them.
fairly and impartially?
They're gone.
They were not, which is why we terminated her.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I'd like to yield the balance of
Duh.
my time to the chairman, Mr. Perry.
Ooh,
Well,
God.
Chair, thanks to
Just
gentlemen.
go bald.
Administrator, you're in support of the supplemental request. You're in support of that, right? And you would kind of agree with the assertion that you don't have the staffing necessary to complete your mission in one form or another.
That I don't have the
Staffing,
staffing.
you don't have personnel.
I have the staffing and personnel to complete our mission.
You
I
do.
need funding to continue to support
You need the
reimbursing.
funding. Okay. So let me ask you this. You
Support reimbursement.
you figure out your strategic plan, and it seems to me that your strategic plan bumped your core mission of helping people before, during, and after disasters.
Yeah,
Can you
so this is
explain?
what we're on
I mean,
now.
you
We're
sent,
on the
I
mission
think, is it
statement.
2 people to Azerbaijan? I don't know how far Azerbaijan is, but your organization sent, as I understand, is it more than
Azerbaijan.
2 people or just 2 people to the, as it's stated, the
Azerbaijan?
solidarity for
What the fuck is
solidarity
Azerbaijan?
for
what
a
does
Green World
Azerbaijan have to do with
Conference of the
anything?
parties to the United
I'm so
Nations
confused.
Framework Convention on
Is this the
Climate
United
Change,
Nations?
COP
Oh wait,
probably
is this a
24,
hearing on the
25,
United
whatever
Nations?
the heck it is. 2 people?
So
How many?
confused.
COP 29, I believe we sent 2 people.
2
Yeah,
people.
COP 29.
What? Who approves that?
I do.
You approve
Are
that.
you
So,
fucking kidding me?
Can you provide the committee the details on how much that cost, how much their stay was, and how that? Look, people here talk about disinformation. One of the biggest portions of disinformation that I consistently see is that disasters are more frequent. They're more.
Yeah.
They're more devastating.
No, that's not
Simply, the data
disinformation.
doesn't support any of that.
Yeah, it
it's
does
all-
actually, but
and,
okay.
allegedly, that's all caused by us, and no data
Right.
supports that either.
Actually,
yet
there's
that's
a lot of
made.
data that supports it, but
those
go on.
assertions are made, and
Okay.
one of those assertions is,
All right.
of course, about climate
Sounds like a
change itself. And of course, you're spending,
And you know what we
sending
do about
your staff,
feelings.
which apparently you have enough of, but you don't have enough money. But you're
Because
paying,
that's
so we'd
about
like to know how much all that
reimbursements. Yep,
costs
okay.
to send them to Azerbaijan. With that,
you
the
don't
chair now
understand
recognizes the
how
gentleman
that
from
works,
New
but
Jersey,
okay.
Mr. Representative
All right.
Andrew.
And
Chairman,
COP29
thank you.
is the leading climate meeting
Administrator,
in the
you seem like a
globe,
really nice
and
person,
that is
and you
where
have a very
climate
nice
change is discussed
personality, and you seem
seriously.
calm
And I'm
and
glad FEMA
gentle.
representatives are
I'm
there
gonna
because I would
apologize in
like them to
advance,
talk with the
'cause I'm
world's
angry,
leading
and I'm
climate
tired of
scientists
it. I don't only sit on
at COP29.
transportation. I sit on
So
judiciary.
fuck off. Oh, and this
you
is
know, I've been
Van
at
Poo.
hearings for hours where we
Mr.
were
Van
told that
Poo.
there wasn't any plan to go into Roman Catholic churches. And I'm digressing, I
What?
realize that. And yet we found out there was, and they had to apologize. We were
What?
told that nobody was going to school board meetings because people
What?
were reflecting their individual opinions.
No, they
And
weren't.
again,
It was-
over
it
time,
was
we dug in and
astroturfing,
found out there
Van
was.
Poo.
There is a culture
No,
in America
you're wrong.
that this issue represents and symbolizes.
Oh my
Now, I'm a
God.
plain speaker, I'm a plain
getting
talker, and I'm very direct. So I'm going to
I'm
ask
tired
you
of
some
these men.
things. I
I'm
know you
telling you
talked
right
about
now.
it, but the reason we keep going back to it, Administrator, it's a really big deal. It's the First
Okay.
Amendment that people
Fuck you.
have the right
Go
to
ahead.
express their viewpoint.
Come
their
at me,
feelings,
bro.
who
That's what
they
I'd be
wanna vote
saying.
for,
All right.
What they believe.
Let it
whether
all
they're
out,
liberal or conservative,
sunshine.
Republican or Democrat, Trump or Harris.
Get
who
it out of your
cares? 'Cause
system.
guess what? The folks on the other side of the aisle should know if
Fabulous.
it happened to us, it could happen to them.
Okay.
That's the reality.
Great.
And I believe that
Get your
FEMA's
rocks
blatantly
off.
neglected its core
Let
mission
it all
of
out.
providing emergency support to all Americans without prejudice or bias.
Right.
And I also believe this doesn't happen in a vacuum.
Yeah.
And I understand the person who's been fired, she swears that this came
She
from
swears?
above her.
You mean
So
she
the
swears
first question
like-
I'm going to ask you,
like
that
she
this
double
came, this
dog
was part of the
promises?
administration.
Is that what it
she
is?
a liar?
Are we talking double dog promises?
Her allegations, I have not seen any evidence.
He's
that
making
this
them
is
up.
Beyond her
So just
specific
say, you know
direction,
what?
but
That
we are
isn't true.
conducting
So goodbye.
additional
Next.
Investigations.
What's your next
To
question?
ensure that this is an isolated incident.
Fiona
So the truth
Fields.
is
We will
we-
take disciplinary action if there was more than her
The
Exactly.
truth is we don't
All right,
know yet.
relax.
It's the culture. It's the culture of what's
Oh,
going on.
okay, it's the culture.
And you know, part of what they
Okay,
said, this
Mr. Feelings.
individual,
I
they
can't
called
stand these
Trump
guys. I fucking
supporters,
hate
and
them.
I know you got the. I know your answer is going
Rapture
to be,
faster.
no to this, as quote vicious dogs, end quote. I want to just say how deep and mean this
What?
was.
What is that
Do you
talking
believe
about?
that Trump supporters are vicious dogs?
What? What are you
That was a
talking
comment
about?
that was not made by me, and I do not believe in that comment, no.
Okay,
Was
I'm sure you
oh my
don't.
God.
Do political affiliations with the Republican Party make someone inherently dangerous because they happen to be a Republican?
I'm not going to
Yes or
answer that
no?
question. I'm not
That
here to
is not in
testify on your
alignment
feelings.
With our core mission and our
Why don't you
values
just?
of integrity.
She needs to get
compassion,
harder
fairness,
ass.
and
Come on,
respect.
bitch. Toughen up.
I agree, and I understand that.
Sorry.
But think about this:
She shouldn't.
people,
She's
when
fine.
they are their most vulnerable, most in
I mean, she's
need,
tough
most
enough.
scared, most worried, in the most
I'm just
trouble,
mad.
probably in their entire lives, hardworking men and women of America, looking to
It's about
a
his
federal
penis,
agency to protect them,
Badger.
to help them, to
This is
take
all
care
about
of
this
them.
little man's penis
And they got literally
and how
a knife
quivering
in the
it
heart.
is right now.
I mean, that's what this
That's
really
what it's all
represented.
about.
Those people, how
This is
do
the
they feel?
only
They break
sexual
their back
joy these
paying
guys
the
get.
taxes that keep us all going here.
only
so when we
sexual
finally
joy,
are supposed to do a
unless
job, this is what happens.
They're
How
child sex
heartbreaking is
trafficking
that?
like Matt Gaetz is.
Congressman, this was unacceptable,
This
and it is
is
heartbreaking.
I know,
have
and I-
pushed
the
for
only
3.5
sexual
years
joy
to put people
they
first.
get.
And you know what?
Everything
I'm
that
sorry.
we do.
And that's
I'm sorry
what
to be so
kind of- and
crude.
again, forgive me, I'm going to editorialize for a minute. We
Oh,
speak
dear.
of equity, which is
You
different
mean
than
you weren't
equality, and it's become a
editorializing to
political
this
symbol
point?
to some degree,
Okay.
whether folks want to admit it or not. We're worried
Okay.
about
Well, oh yeah,
pronouns. We're
bad,
worried about
bad.
illegals. We're worried about
Equality's
everything.
terrible.
I get it.
Oh, wait.
But how about just worrying about the average man and woman who's working, who lives in America, who's
They
legal,
do.
who
They
pays
do
their
worry about
taxes,
them.
who obeys
They
the
do. They
laws,
actually
and
help those
finally,
people.
Finally
They
needs
do.
help, because most of these people never need help. They don't want anything. They
Then
get their Social
Congress, you
Security
shouldn't
when
tell
they
me
retire,
to
and
do
that's about
this.
it.
Why
Just
don't
think
you,
how they
Congress,
feel.
fix it?
And I'm concerned.
If you're so
and I have
dang
to
mad
tell
about
you,
it.
I have personally asked Joe Kafari.
I would
who
say
is
it.
the
I'd say,
Inspector
then
General
fix
on
it.
Homeland
If
Security,
you're mad about it,
personally
fix it.
asked
I
him,
do what
sent
you
him a
tell me to
letter.
do.
He's a good man. He's an honest broker to look into this and really dissect this and see what's going on. I think we're going to find it's more than one person. That culture.
Oh my God, you're going to
allowed
vigilante
this?
this?
One person to think it was
You're gonna
okay.
vigilante?
That culture that we've had, whether it's in the Department of Justice,
Oh
in
my fucking
or
God.
whether it is
Somebody
here in Homeland
just-
Security, other areas, that culture is allowed this to take place. That culture is wrong, and it denies the most fundamental values of Americanism.
Shut up. I'm not listening to him anymore. You can read what he's saying on the bottom of the screen. I don't care. I don't care. I don't like you. Don't ask me. I don't like you. You piss me off. La 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 la. I don't even fucking know. I don't know what this is all about. Yeah, go fuck yourself. That's what I say, Van Poo. Sick of this shit. Totally sick of it. Sick of it. I'm sycophant. My God, have we gotten... I think we've exhausted this topic. Can I just say that? I think we've exhausted this. Let me see. I know I have a couple of other things. Actually, I have this Joel Greenberg thing because, you know what? I'm not letting go of this Matt Gaetz thing. I'm going to talk about him every goddamn day until he is out of the public view. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not listening to this exchange. Oh, is he telling you to shut up because you should shut the fuck up?
Might seek time from the next representative, if he has any left. The next representative, Representative Bean from Florida, is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Very good morning to you. Good morning, T&I Committee, and good morning, Administrator.
might be turning this
Welcome.
off, you guys.
Let's cut through the disinformation that's been talked about. So let's play a game called True or False. I'll say
I'm not
a
doing
statement.
it.
You say true.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not engaging in this fucking bullshit fucking dick sucker fucking bullshit. God damn it. Brr. I hate it. 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 I hate the performance. I hate it. I hate the cruelty. I hate the ridiculous waste of money and time. Urgh. This is the Orlando Sentinel podcast that Gal was talking about what happened in Florida. And I think that this is from a year ago. But I think it's important. This is an important story to me, frankly, for personal reasons, as well as just Matt Gaetz has so much power within that side of the world. They're blowing this all out of proportion to further the stupid persecution. You nailed it, Max. It's a persecution complex, and they cannot let go of it. Even after winning an election, they cannot let go. They cannot. They don't mention the threats people would. Yep, exactly, Jen. They're not going to talk about that. They're not going to talk about the disinformation that actually got us to this point where Trump supporters could be violent, in that they were being filled daily with the fact that FEMA was not going to give them any money, and FEMA wasn't there to help, and FEMA was stealing their supplies, and FEMA. Well, hell yeah, the FEMA employees were scared because your stupid voters are stupid. In fact, they're just beyond stupid. And they're violent because you made them that way. I hate Republicans. I'm sorry. They did make me hate them. And that's sad. That's not where I was. Anyone. Fucking shit. All right. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, switching gears.
Okay. The date is Thursday, June 23rd, 2022. The time is approximately 10:39 hours. My name is Inspector Troy Cope with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, Office of Executive Investigations, Public Corruptions Unit. We're currently here at the Orange County Jail in the F Wing in the visitation area. And for the record, I want to introduce everybody before we go further.
Special Agent Supervisor Louis Maigret with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, Office of Executive Investigations.
Chief Assistant State Attorney Stacey Salmons with the Seminole County State Attorney's Office, 18th Judicial Circuit.
Fritz Scheller. I'm Joel Greenberg's defense attorney.
Okay, and Mr. Greenberg, could I get you to state and spell your name?
Joel Greenberg, JoelGreenberg.
What you just heard was recorded inside the Orange County Jail in June. Joel Greenberg, Seminole County's disgraced former tax collector who's being held there as he awaits sentencing on sex trafficking and other federal charges, was meeting with several state investigators who were delving into a spoiler candidate scheme from 2 years earlier. Greenberg, once a brash radio host turned politician who seemed to believe he was above the law, answered every question in a matter-of-fact tone. He spoke not just about the election the state was investigating, but about his own crimes, about shady dealings by his former allies, about a Seminole County political scene he likened to organized crime.
These guys are, for the most part, extremely organized in what they do. They're very intelligent, and they operate as a little mafia type. I mean, you know the guys.
Over 2.5 hours, speaking under oath, Greenberg described widespread corruption in Central Florida politics, lucrative jobs and contracts doled out as political favors, cash handoffs to avoid detection, developers pulling the strings of public officials, and a who's who of local politicians and influential figures who benefited. The investigators sitting across from him in the jail's visitation area didn't just listen. They probed, asking questions that suggested they were interested in a wide array of local controversies, scandals, and mysteries that have made headlines in recent years, in those who have power and how they wield it.
Again, we're looking for specifics on things, but we're also the people that are looking to government officials, statewide, and elected officials, representatives, specifically, the higher-ups of the higher-ups.
Thanks, Gal. The entire podcast of this that we're listening to, this one episode, is linked by Gal. Thank you so much.
Hello, and welcome back to Joel Greenberg, The Man, The Scandal, The Players, brought to you by the Orlando Sentinel. I'm your host, Jeff Weiner. It's been a long time since our last episode, last December, in fact. At the time, we were looking ahead to Joel Greenberg finally learning his fate. Sentencing was set for March of 2022, and the judge overseeing his case had made clear that there would be no more delays. Since then, there have been several more delays. In February, Greenberg's attorneys asked to push the date of his sentencing back. U.S. District Judge Gregory Presnell granted the request, writing in his order that the delay was, quote, in the interest of justice. In May, Presnell indicated he planned to sentence Greenberg by August or sooner. Then, in July, he set a new date, December 1st. For now, that date's still on the books, and recently there's been a flurry of activity to suggest that this time it will hold. There's been little outward indication as to what led to the delays, each preceded by status reports from federal prosecutors that were sealed from public view. The government asked for that, explaining that revealing any updates about their progress would imperil ongoing investigations. But there's one thing we know for sure. Greenberg has been talking. So far, at least 4 of his former associates have been indicted or pleaded guilty in federal court, based in part on his testimony, something that could help him avoid a harsh sentence when he stands before Presnell next month.
Which he's doing
His
11
talks
years.
with federal investigators are shrouded in secrecy. But the Sentinel recently obtained audio of his interview with state investigators in June. In this episode, you'll hear some of what Greenberg had to say in his own words. Fair warning, the audio is heavily redacted, but it's still quite revealing. Not just in terms of what Greenberg has said, but what investigators want to know.
You mentioned that, a lot of things were by the playbook, like the names and everything. Anything else that you guys discussed that would kind of cross over on the illegal realm?
I love the music.
Greenberg is not the only pariah of Central Florida politics who has been talking to investigators in recent months.
If you would, ma'am, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God? I do. Very good. You can put your hand down.
The person you just heard being sworn in is Justine Iannotti. She's a 36-year-old former public school teacher from Winter Springs who moved to Sweden a couple of years ago. If you read the Sentinel, you probably know her name for a different reason. She's the ghost candidate who haunted a Central Florida state Senate race in 2020. A central figure in a controversy that has engulfed Seminole County's political establishment. Iannotti filed to run as an independent candidate in Senate District 9. She didn't campaign, but Republican operatives flooded voters in Seminole and Volusia counties with mailers promoting her as a progressive. Their apparent goal was to draw votes to Iannotti that would have gone to the Democrat in the race, helping Republican Jason Brodeur win. The same scheme helped 2 other Republicans win office in South Florida. This became a statewide scandal, with ties stretching to some of the state's most powerful people and entities, like Data Targeting, the consulting firm that ran GOP Senate campaigns in 2020, and utility giant Florida Power and Light, which employed some of the operatives involved. But throughout the scandal, a mystery remained. Why Justine Iannotti? How did a political newcomer eyeing a move to Scandinavia become the star in this spoiler candidate scheme? In an interview with investigators this August, she finally gave an answer. She was recruited.
It was probably May that I spoke with Ben Paris on the phone, and he had called me and asked me if I was interested. He had called 2 other people before me. They said no, they weren't interested. He was basically discussing about someone to run and everything, about bringing diversity, because he said there was other men running and not many women. I said, okay, I'm interested in everything. So then after that phone conversation, I sat down with Mr. Fogelson on June 4th, or roughly, of 2020. to fill out information and paperwork for the campaign.
You may have caught two new names there. One is Fogelsong, which refers to Eric Fogelsong. He's a longtime local political consultant whose career was on the rocks in 2020. He had recently pleaded guilty to stealing from a campaign he worked for 2 years prior. He secretly helped Iannotti launch her campaign and allegedly contributed $1,200 in cash. The other name is Ben Paris. In addition to being a longtime acquaintance of Iannotti, he's Seminole County's Republican Party chairman. And until recently, he was also a high-ranking official with the Seminole Chamber, an organization that promotes businesses in the county. That organization's CEO in 2020 and now is Jason Brodeur, the man who was elected with help from Iannotti's campaign and the ads that promoted her. Brodeur has dodged questions about what he knew about Iannotti's campaign and when. In June, when Sentinel journalist Annie Martin confronted him outside a fundraiser, Brodeur said he had no knowledge of the scheme or Ben Paris's role in it. But Joel Greenberg said in his jailhouse interview that there was no way Brodeur was in the dark about his employees' plans. Here's Florida Department of Law Enforcement investigator Troy Cope questioning Greenberg.
Okay, so the one thing you are sure with Brodeur is that he had firsthand knowledge that the plan was to run a third-party candidate in his race.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if he's saying to the media, which again is not under oath or anything, he had no idea, he wasn't a part of it, and again, I'm paraphrasing, I'm not quoting directly from there, so I don't want to put words in his mouth, but if he's saying he was not involved, you're saying that's not true.
That is absolutely not true. I mean, he's the type of person that knows exactly what's going on. Exactly what's going on. They're not going to leave it a chance. I mean, they're running a multi-million-dollar operation with this campaign, raising $10, $15 million. You don't leave something like that a chance. And they won by, a very, very thin margin. I mean, those things just don't happen by chance.
Greenberg even claimed he had been present in late 2019 or early 2020 when Brodeur, Fogelsong, and Paris discussed the plan to recruit a spoiler candidate for the District 9 race.
Okay.
Brodeur was there, present in the conversation, just like you'd be sitting around this table. And Ben Paris was there.
Brodeur, who didn't respond to a request for comment, hasn't been accused of any wrongdoing by authorities. And he didn't suffer at the polls this month when voters re-elected him to a second term in the state Senate. After Greenberg's interview came to light, the Seminole Chamber launched what it described as a systematic review of Brodeur's tenure and hiring practices, as well as the Chamber's role in politics. Last week, the organization released a statement saying that it had found no evidence of illegality or unethical behavior. However, it also announced that Brodeur would be leaving the organization when his contract expires at the end of the year. In the statement, Chamber Chair Lauren Miller said, quote, "At this point, we agree that having a president and CEO who is focused solely on the Chamber would be best for our organization now, and we fully anticipate Jason's responsibilities as our community's state senator will be, and should be, his primary focus," unquote. In his jailhouse interview with authorities, Greenberg didn't hold back on naming names. The transcript reads like a who's who of Central Florida elected officials and their political allies, many of whom the former tax collector said had engaged in shady dealings. He accused John Miklos, the former chair of the St. Johns River Water Management District, of trading favors with local developers seeking approval to build in environmentally sensitive areas. Miklos didn't respond to a request for comment.
The state building is not approved to be built because of environmental issues. Miklos would get greased off or something, and then they would all magically be approved. And this was rinse and repeat what they would do.
Greenberg described gatherings attended by prominent officials and political players where they would talk about politics over drinks while scheming about how to bypass regulations and influence elections. This is the group that Greenberg said acted like, quote, a little mafia, unquote, and included Brodeur, Paris, Fogelsong, and former state senator Frank Artilles.
How often was Artilles there? A few times, a couple, or are we talking multiple times a month? Or
over a 4-year period, 3-year period, I probably saw Frank up there 20 times.
Okay.
Artilles is currently awaiting trial in Miami, accused of bribing a ghost candidate to run an election there in 2020. That November, he reportedly was overheard boasting about his role in the scheme at Jason Brodeur's election night party at Liam Fitzpatrick's, a Lake Mary restaurant popular with those in Greenberg's orbit. As I mentioned earlier, the recording and transcript of Greenberg's interview were heavily redacted.
Dog walk.
Some entire passages are blanked out. One name in particular was redacted over and over again. The name of a figure Greenberg described as particularly influential. This is the person who Greenberg said played host to many of the gatherings where political figures crafted influence schemes over cocktails. This person, Greenberg said, was often the one calling the shots. He described an episode in which state lawmakers introduced legislation crafted to help this person win approval to build hundreds of homes on environmentally protected land near the University of Central Florida, a project opposed by local leaders and residents.
Your understanding that that was specifically because the land that had hoped to develop, that was that Seminole County area east of Oviedo moving towards Orange County, was so close to UCF.
Correct.
That had the legislation passed, it would have been a benefit to his development.
Correct.
While the developer's name is redacted, it's pretty clear who Greenberg was talking about. Chris Dorworth, the former lawmaker and lobbyist whose proposed River Cross development provoked the ire of Seminole County residents. We've talked about him in prior episodes. Dorworth, for what it's worth, agrees that he likely is the person Greenberg was talking about. In an email to the Orlando Sentinel, he confirmed he was behind the 2018 legislation, but otherwise said Greenberg's claims about him were lies and fiction. Greenberg also admitted in the interview to doling out no-show jobs on the taxpayer's dime to political allies, something he explicitly described as favor trading. Far from a typical hiring process, he said the jobs were offered over drinks at Liam Fitzpatrick's in Lake Mary.
A lot of these conversations would happen up at Liam's, drinking beer and stuff, but there was the understanding that if somebody was coming along to do work, they were going to be overpaid, and if anything was needed, they would remember that they were being paid too much to do a job that it could have been paid a lot less. I don't remember the exact words.
Greenberg said attorney Frank Kruppenbacher wrote himself a $6,000 per month contract with the tax office. The paperwork said the pay was for legal matters, but Greenberg said Kruppenbacher promised to help with his 2020 re-election bid. He also could provide access to powerful people, like then Governor Rick Scott.
He really oversold what he could do. He was supposed to set up some sort of either political action committee or something to help me in the 2020 election. And that's another thing we never got around to doing, but paid him a lot of money for very little. I mean, he was paid a lot of money from the office, and he didn't really do anything.
Greenberg said he had a similar arrangement with State Representative Anthony Sabatini, who was also on the tax collector's payroll for legal work. Sabatini never got back to us when we asked him to comment on this. Kruppenbacher said he provided a variety of legal services for the tax office, and never got involved in politics on Greenberg's behalf.
Sabatini went after me when I went after Joe
The admission
Kent.
that he doled out no-work jobs confirms the findings of an audit Seminole County conducted following Greenberg's resignation. It found he wasted taxpayer money on needless consultants, personal expenses, and a hoard of cryptocurrency, among other things. The county has been working to claw back some of what Greenberg cost taxpayers and had a breakthrough last week, when County Attorney Bryant Applegate told commissioners that after lengthy negotiations, Greenberg had agreed to pay more than $1.3 million in restitution. He said the county's quest to be made whole is far from over, announcing plans to pursue civil and criminal penalties against anyone who broke the law alongside the former tax collector.
I've decided to turn over all our files related to the other individuals and entities to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. I'm requesting that it begin an investigation into the files to determine along with the state attorney's office if any of the files warrant criminal proceedings against any other individuals and entities. Additionally, county's outside counsel, Ed Baxa, and the law firm of Foley Lardner, in cooperation with the county attorney's office, will begin at the same time civil action seeking restitution against many other individuals and entities as possible.
Did they do that, I wonder? Did the county go after that? This music is
The audio of Joel Greenberg you've heard throughout this episode was recorded by state investigators who were delving into the ghost candidate scandal and other matters. But Greenberg has also given multiple interviews to federal investigators. Those sessions aren't public, but they're important. The value of the information he has provided the feds could mean the difference between Greenberg spending a short time in prison or a decade or more. That's because Greenberg is facing a minimum mandatory sentence of 12 years in prison, 10 years for sex trafficking of a child, and another 2 for identity theft. He could also face additional time on the 4 other counts to which he pleaded guilty last year. But prosecutors recently filed a motion asking Greenberg's judge to downward depart, meaning choose a sentence below the minimum, on the sex trafficking charge. The reason? They said Greenberg had offered what's known as substantial assistance to the government in building cases against other people. Federal sentencing is complicated in general, but especially so in a case like Greenberg's. He faced 33 charges originally and was accused of a staggering spectrum of offenses, most of them allegedly committed when he held public office, violating his oath to taxpayers. To help us figure out what to expect next month, we spoke to veteran criminal defense attorney Mark O'Mara. He said despite them crediting Greenberg for his assistance, prosecutors likely will argue he should do significant time in prison.
I think several years in prison is what they want for Mr. Greenberg, and that's what they're going to seek. However, you know, that's the 10,000-foot level or whatever they call that. If you really start digging into it, there's so much to unravel and to try and figure out about how they got there, why they're there. I mean, if you look at Mr. Greenberg for what he was indicted for, it was decades in federal prison, without question, from the various crimes all across the spectrum to the amount of money taken for the financial crimes to the seriousness of the sexual offenses, and then just to that violation of trust, which is very significant to most sentencing judges, both at the federal level and at the state level.
What we know so far about Greenberg's cooperation has been revealed through indictments of several of his associates. Michael Shirley, a former Republican operative and campaign consultant, allegedly paid Greenberg $6,000 in bribes and kickbacks. Prosecutors say Shirley garnered more than $466,000 from the scheme, which involved submitting fake or inflated invoices to Greenberg's office. Shirley was indicted on fraud charges and is slated for trial in January. He has pleaded not guilty. Joseph Ellicott, a close friend of Greenberg's and sports radio host, worked for the tax office as a supervisor of facilities, or special projects manager, roles other employees said were bogus. Ellicott has admitted to acting as a go-between for the alleged payments from Shirley to Greenberg. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced last month to 15 months in federal prison. Keith Ingersoll was the tax office's real estate advisor. He was involved in a property flipping scheme in which the office bought a building for $942,000 hours after it had been sold for just $680,000. Ingersoll was also charged with scamming a wealthy investor out of millions of dollars, falsely claiming the money would be used to purchase properties throughout the U.S. and in the Bahamas. Ingersoll pleaded guilty October 19th to fraud charges and is scheduled to be sentenced January 18th. Teresa McIntyre allegedly was involved, along with Greenberg, in a scheme to submit fraudulent COVID-19 relief loan applications to the U.S. Small Business Administration. She has pleaded guilty to conspiracy to defraud the government and is slated for sentencing January 6th.
I think a lot of Gal's stuff is on a Substack, too, if I'm not mistaken.
The motion for a downward departure by Assistant U.S. Attorney Amanda Daniels also noted that Greenberg had cooperated on other matters, though what those are remains a secret. The prosecutor's motion was accompanied by a memorandum filed under seal, which apparently details investigations he helped with that aren't yet public. That presumably includes the government probe into Congressman Matt Gaetz, who numerous reports have indicated was under investigation related to the Greenberg matter. Those probes reportedly centered on whether he had sex with the same 17-year-old that Greenberg did. A Washington Post report in September suggested charges against Gaetz are unlikely. The report said that career Justice Department prosecutors had recommended against charging Gaetz due to concerns about the credibility of key witnesses against him, including Greenberg. In a court filing this week, Greenberg's attorney, Fritz Scheller, directed veiled criticism at the Department of Justice in Washington for so far failing to bring charges based on Greenberg's cooperation. Unlike the Central Florida-based federal prosecutors who built cases against several of the former tax collectors' associates.
She is on Blue Sky now.
Quote, "Perhaps the DOJ in Washington is still moving forward on its prosecutions," unquote, Schiller said, later adding, quote, "Perhaps the DOJ are master strategists far beyond the capabilities of the undersigned. Or, perhaps the DOJ is like Nero, fiddling away as Rome burns." unquote. Still, Greenberg is being given a significant amount of credit for helping the government. Prosecutors are asking a judge to reduce the offense level of his sex trafficking charge by 10. According to O'Mara, that's a lot.
I will tell you, I've done this for a long, long time. I can count on one hand and still have a couple of fingers to snap how many times I've gotten 10 levels.
That figure, O'Mara said, was likely negotiated between Greenberg's defense and the prosecution, with Greenberg trading information about his former associates for point reductions in his sentence.
I wasn't privy, but I've done it my entire life. There was some horse trading going on as to determining when and how many levels they were going to get to, and I have a feeling the government was going, give you 2 for that, 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 and the defense, of course, is not going to stop there. They're doing exactly what a good defense counsel would be, which is, no, I want 4 for that, 4 for that, 4 for that, 4 for that. Add them up, Judge, we're out of here.
Yes, Gal, I have that article teed up.
In his filing this week, Scheller wrote that the downward departure reduced Greenberg's potential sentence under federal guidelines from about 22 to 27 years, all the way down to about 7 to 9 years.
Yes, we read that, Teresa.
Greenberg also will get credit for the time he's already spent behind bars. After initially being granted bond and violating his conditions, he was booked into the Orange County Jail in March of last year, and has been there ever since. That will be deducted from whatever penalty he's given.
He will get credit for every day that he has been incarcerated on these charges, so if he were to get a sentence equal to or less, then he walks out the door at sentencing. If it's equal to or a few months more, then he'll serve whatever he has left, but he will get credit for the time that he's already put in.
That said, O'Mara doesn't expect Greenberg to leave his sentencing hearing December 1st a free man. The breach of public trust that Greenberg's behavior represented is the kind of thing that rubs judges the wrong way, and that they try to discourage. And ultimately, it's up to the judge to decide Greenberg's fate.
My opinion, not being a federal district court judge, is that any district court judge is going to be very frustrated, very upset with what Mr. Greenberg did, everything that he did. Yes, he will give the benefit to the government for their request for downward departure, but I think that the federal judges that I know in the Middle District and throughout the country are going to look at.
All right, we can end it there because we know that he got 11 years. So fast forward to today, he got 11 years. And I do want to read that WPLG piece, that tweet, so I'll do that. Let me check my DMs. Let me check my DMs. Let me do it. Hold on just a minute. Hold on just a minute. Oh, why can't... Oh, I see. Yes, we read that. The unidentified hacker has gained access to a computer file shared in a secure link among lawyers whose clients have given damaging testimony related to Matt Gaetz. That is today. The file of 24 exhibits includes sworn testimony. I'll include that link as well. Thank you, Teresa. All right, so let me entertain you. Let me show you this thing that Gal shared that is relevant to the Joel Greenberg, Matt Gaetz, Orlando fuckwads. That's what I call them. That's what I call them. Fuckwads. Here we go. All right, let's see. Let's see what this girly has to say. Come on. Come in, girly. Come here, girly. Wait, hold on. Boop. 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 Oh. All right, here we go. Live from Miami. WPLG. 4 years ago this month, this is Glenna Milberg from WPLG in Florida. 4 years ago this month, we noticed something odd about 2 Florida Senate candidates and dug in. Today, former Florida Senator Frank Artiles was sentenced for his role in paying a shill to be a fake candidate, dupe voters, and steal the election. Whoop, whoop. All right, here we go. I want to watch it again.
And it could have been so much worse. Kelvin Nicole Ford, this former state senator and ex-Marine, a political operative. He was sentenced to 2 months in jail, a possible 15 years in jail. Also, he was sentenced to 5 years probation and a number of other things. And yet, at the time, the judge telling him his crime likely stole an election from voters.
Is there anything you wish to say at your sentencing? No, sir.
The plea for leniency would come from his family.
The emotional toll on our daughters.
Well, then daddy shouldn't have fucked around.
During such a pivotal time in their lives.
Jail time, but a fraction of the possibility.
I think our tribal poison politics got the better of you, Mr. Artiles, and you lost sight of right and wrong.
A withhold. Frank Artiles will not be recorded as a convicted criminal. The judge moved, he said, by letters from dozens of people describing good things Artiles had done.
Oh my God.
Under scrutiny for the better part of the last 4 years as the tool for big dark money donors to plan and pay off a shill to dupe voters, a ghost candidate with the same last name as this incumbent senator they wanted to lose, who did by just 32 votes.
They blanketed the district. I mean, I heard from Republican friends, I heard from hardcore Democrats.
The prosecutor reminded what Artiles' motives and actions cost.
The impact does matter. They stole an election. They did.
As Artiles headed for the exit, his attorneys blamed loose campaign finance laws and uninformed voters.
Does he feel like he's done something wrong, or he does not feel like he's done something wrong?
I'm not going to get into how he feels or doesn't feel.
The man has no
important to
feelings.
note that then and now, planting shill, fake, ghost candidates in Florida elections, that is perfectly legal. It's the financing of them that is not, and that is what Frank Artiles has been convicted and sentenced for. All of that on hold until December 18th, when everyone comes back here to discuss an appeal. I'm Glenna Milberg, live in Miami tonight, Local 10 News.
Well, there you go. There you go. Terrible. It's all so very terrible. What is the... Where's the other one? Where's the other one? Where? There you go. Oof. Ooh. Wow, that was a big morning. It's the dumb voters' fault. That's right. It's just the dumb voters' fault. It's not his fault. They should have figured it out. Bye, Carla. Have a good day at work. This is... And now, the big boss in Florida is going to get the big AG job, so he'll figure out a way with Ronnie DeSantis to make all of their troubles go away. Now, maybe not Joel Greenberg, because I think he probably isn't very happy with Joel Greenberg right now. I don't know. But I think if I were Matty Gaetz, I'd be a little perturbed with my former bud. Maybe. So I think Matty's not in a good place right now. Come on, hacker. Just release it. I mean, if the women involved are okay with it, that is, release it. If they're not, then don't release it. But let's do something with it. Okay? Give it to the... Well, no, you can't, because that's Florida. I was going to say give it to the state that it happened in, but of course you can't. Oh, it's New York, though. Give it to Tish James. There you go. Give it to Tish James. That's it. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Give the Matt Gaetz stuff to Tish James, because I think some of it took place in New York. Let's go. Let's go. Come on, Tish. You got this. You're all warmed up. Their attorney wants it released. Well, then it should be released. Check your DM on Trump NY case. I will. Here we go. Breaking, Adam Klasfeld, Manhattan DA Bragg intends to oppose Trump's motion to dismiss his New York criminal case. So Alvin Bragg intends to oppose Trump's motion to dismiss his New York criminal case, but prosecutors don't object to pausing his sentencing, which was scheduled for next week. So this is, I'll include this link as well. As a result of the election held, wait, let's actually see. Is there a document link in here? What? Sometimes these guys just don't put the document link in. Hold on. Mershon order. Is that what it is? Here we go. Nope. Yep. Oh, meet mop moop. Wait, come on. Sort. Date. No, okay, I must have it wrong then. Okay, wait a minute. Hold on. Hold on. No, I don't like that. That's a hard thing to watch. Okay, here we go. Hold on. Oh, wait, what? No. What the fuck? That's not it. 2 hours ago. God, I hate the mirror. Okay, this is oh God, I hate these websites. They're so terrible. Yucky poo-poos. Everything is yucky poo-poo. Okay. Here we go. Oh my God. This is such a pain in the ass, these websites. Hold on. All right. Hold on. Okay, here we go. I know, it's a ridiculous fucking website. Believe me. All right. President-elect Donald... This is from the Mirror. Sorry. President-elect Donald Trump's sentencing in the New York hush money case has been indefinitely, quote, adjourned as the court evaluates its next steps. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg is back in court with Judge Juan Mershon, who presided over Trump's hush money case, adhering to today's deadline to decide on how an unprecedented situation would play out. The two were to decide whether to continue with the sentencing of the president-elect, originally scheduled for November 26. Ultimately, Mershon decided to postpone it indefinitely. I would like to see the actual order. In general, most... Okay. Okay, hold on. Let me just... I can do this. I can find this. Mershon order hush money. Can you please link me to the document? In an email. Okay, that's that. And then what happened? Okay, so then what? Okay, well, tell me. Where's the order? Just kidding. Sorry. All right, hold on. Okay, here we go. Maybe the Guardian has shit. No, it doesn't. Fuck, it's 10 hours ago. Yeah. 1 week ago. No. Sorry. Check your DM on Trump. Did you do this? Did you help? Did you do that? Oh no, that was the other one, right? All right, hold on. Wow, man. What the fuck? Why is it so hard to find this original document? Bitch. Okay. How's my docket? Give me the docket then. Oh, here we go. The Daily Wire. Maybe they... Daily Wire is weird, right? I never know. It feels like very Nazi to me. But do they have a link to the document? No? Okay, wait. Bloomberg. Oh man, everybody wants you to pay them. I get it, but my God, people, just fucking let me know. Oh my God. God damn. Ah, I'm sorry. I'm so terrible at this. But okay, here we go. DA, this is CNN. DA agrees to postpone Donald Trump's sentencing. Prosecutors say the delay will give them time to litigate Trump's expected motion to dismiss the. Wait, what? Okay, wait. I need some more info on this. Hold on. I'm coming at you. I'm coming at you, people, with a big screen. There it is. Okay. So this is CNN. DA agrees to postpone Donald Trump's sentencing. We know that that's not real hair, sir. Prosecutors say the delay will give them time to litigate Trump's expected motion to dismiss the hush money case. And also Trump expected to nominate blur, blur, blur. Oh, what? Maggie Shamerman? Oh, she did do an interview. Ex-FEMA employee accused of skipping pro-Trump home speaks out. I want to hear what she has to say.
FEMA claims that a rogue employee told workers in Florida to bypass those homes, and Republicans have cried foul, claiming it was all politically motivated. FEMA fired that woman, Marnie Washington. They say it was, quote, a clear violation of FEMA's values and principles to help people regardless of their political affiliation. This was reprehensible. Do you think you're being scapegoated? Because FEMA noted in your dismissal letter that you had no prior disciplinary action, none, but this alleged misconduct totally outweighed your positive record. What did that feel like when you read that?
I'm certain I'm being scapegoated because my superior has been demoted in the past for giving the wrong orders. So now that this person is my superior, I've done my best to not only serve him well, but also serve the Highland County well as well. But I'm the scapegoat here because it doesn't make any sense. You have someone with a clean record that comes highly recommended, and then you have someone that's been demoted in the past for egregious acts, yet you retain this person and promote them, but yet fire me and basically leave me out to be scrutinized and lie and tell the American people I was working on my own volition. I don't create policy. FEMA does. I just implement it in the field.
Well, the FEMA administrator, Chris Well, is going to be testifying at tomorrow's hearing. Marnie, given all that you're experiencing, what do you want to hear from her?
It would be nice if Ms. Criswell would be human and come to terms with the fact that FEMA has not addressed the safety concerns that the crew leads and the specialists experience out in the field. There are plenty of reports that discuss hostile encounters, is how FEMA describes it, and our method is avoidance. I don't understand why we're hiding that from the American people. If someone feels unsafe, what employer subjects their employees to a hostile work environment? Nobody does that.
Have you been asked
Why
to testify?
can't we be transparent about that? No, ma'am.
Are you surprised? And would you do so if they asked?
Oh, it does. Jim, it has this. It has the Chinese
I will come
sub.
forward.
I am surprised that you don't have current counsel representing you, Ms. Washington. Have you tried to get counsel and been unsuccessful in anyone representing you here?
Oh, I'm worried about this
Yes,
woman's safety.
apparently a lot of people are afraid to take on this case because no one wants to deal with the government. It seems that the Stafford Act is layered and complex, and most people that have tried to hold FEMA accountable for egregious acts in the past, they failed.
That's interesting.
And Maggie, you have been reporting on the president-elect's support.
Shh. 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 Oh my God. Wait, what were we on before? Anyway, the Danish Navy has the. Oh, I know. I was on just CNN regular, wasn't I? All right. So yeah. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I don't know what. The thing is I feel now that woman has is not in a safe position, frankly. Oh, we've got some sound on the DA decision.
Everything.
while the court works through these issues instead of having this looming sentencing on the book. So right now we're just waiting to hear from the judge to see what his position is. We know the judge has given the DA some time to try to work this through, but we still need an official word from the judge about what should happen with that sentencing, because he's going to be the ultimate arbiter.
Do we know when that could happen, and does it have to happen? Is there a chance that he can just say, okay, let's do another hold or another stay and keep that going on for years on end?
The problem is that if the judge were to kick this can down the road, say the judge decided, you know what, I recognize we're in sort of extraordinary circumstances here. I'm going to pause all of this until he's no longer president, until he's out of office in 2029. The defense is not going to go for that. The defense does not want this looming over him. And so then we are likely to see a continued fight on appeal, whether they go to federal court, whether they try to appeal this in the state system. We don't yet know. We don't have that. But it's clear from this filing that we've now seen from the district attorney that they understand there's a fight, which is why they're like, let's just get rid of all the deadlines. We know there's more to come here.
All right, a lot to watch as always, Laura Jarrett. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Sure.
We're also learning more about the suspect accused of going on that deadly stabbing rampage in New York City.
Quiet. I understand. They did catch him. I understand. All right. Well, that's interesting. So there you go. There's the update. Ukraine fires U.S.-made longer-range missiles into Russia. Let's see. I thought there might be... Oh, Bitcoin. Just be careful, everybody. Just be careful, everybody. Okay, I think that's it then. I think we're good then on that. Woo! Woo, 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 woo. What a morning. Holy moly. I've got 3 full screens full of tabs that I'm going to have to link to this morning's description. Whoop, whoop. Well done, everyone. I feel very full of information. I feel full. I'm going to look into that Danish Navy thing. Understand that a little bit more. Anyway. Thank you all for coming so much. I so appreciate every time you're able to tune in or put us in the background. I love being in the background. I have no problem with that. I think it's fantastic. And thank you for indulging me on the stories that are of particular interest. I appreciate that not everything is for everyone, but I appreciate your participation and your engagement, because it's really great. It's so great to see people in the chat speaking with each other too. I'm just really grateful for that. So anyway, happy Tuesday. I will see you tomorrow morning. Have a wonderful day. And I hope that today is, I hope it is restorative. It's not a sub, it's a ship. Okay. I hope it is restorative. I hope today you get a little bit of restoration. You know, that's what I want. All right. So that's my wish. I'm putting it out there in the universe that doesn't really give a shit what I say. Anyway, love you guys. Mean it. I'll see you later.